Chapter 1364. Wait. Dao Lord Mountain Gaze came over in time and stopped Feng Huangmei. When Feng Huangmei stopped, Dao Lord Mountain Gaze looked at Ning Cheng and asked, Daoist Ning, Xing Shi and Xian Mao have scores, but they are not here. Should we divide the realm for them or not? Ning Cheng hesitated for a while before saying, Daoist Mountain Gaze, as far as I know, Xian Mao should not come to Heavens Beyond again. As for Xing Shi, she has a huge feud with Heavens Beyond. If Xing Shi dares to go to the beyond of heaven and earth, just push the blame to me. In Ning Cheng's opinion, he and Xing Shi would always be enemies. Instead of dealing with this woman, he might as well fight. Dao Lord Mountain Gaze deeply agreed with Ning Cheng's words. Xing Shi was too rude and domineering. She directly tore apart the realm protection of Heavens Beyond. However, without Ning Cheng's words, Dao Lord Mountain Gaze would not dare to ignore Xing Shi. After receiving Ning Cheng's promise, Dao Lord Mountain Gaze and Feng Huangmei returned to discuss with the other judges for a while before Feng Huangmei walked out. Feng Huangmei came to the middle of the square and stood in the void, exuding a strong sense of confidence. If it had not been for Ning Cheng, it would not have been Feng Huangmei's turn to announce the final ranking. Generally speaking, the person who announced the final ranking was the person with the highest prestige. This meant that after the realms of Heavens Beyond were divided, Feng Huangmei might still be the Heaven Lord of Heavens Beyond. Feng Huangmei's strength was not the highest, but he had the highest foresight. He had befriended experts like Ning Cheng and the sacred Dao sect master at the same time. Who would dare to question him in Heavens Beyond? After everyone had settled down, Feng Huangmei said in a clear voice, this time, the boundary division competition of the Heavens Beyond of heaven and earth has ended. After the discussion of the judges, the results are as follows. At that moment, the square was silent. Everyone was waiting for Feng Huangmei to announce the results. Although everyone knew the results of the competition, they did not know how many of the people who had obtained the rankings had combined their scores. This was because only the judges and the people who had taken the initiative to combine their scores knew. Feng Huangmei felt very satisfied with the silence and even raised his voice. First place, Grand Essence Realms Ning Cheng, 370 points in total. Ning Cheng was slightly surprised. Even if he was the first in the last round of the duels, he would only have 200 points, so how could he have 370 points? Not only did Ning Cheng not understand, even the rest of the people did not understand. However, even if Ning Cheng obtained this score, no one would be able to point out the meaning behind it. First, Feng Huangmei would definitely explain it to him. Second, the final score was a combination of everyone's scores, and no one would know that those scores had been combined. Sure enough, Feng Huangmei continued, the points for the first place are the combined scores of Grand Essence Realms Ning Cheng, Rogue Cultivator Dao Lord Burning Talisman, Guang Yuan Gong Nianyan, and Rogue Cultivator Kong Zai. Ning Cheng looked at Dao Lord Burning Talisman not far away in confusion. Forget about Kong Zai and Nianyan. The two of them had a good relationship with him, so it was reasonable for them to give him the points. However, Dao Lord Talisman didn't have much of a relationship with him, and he hadn't agreed to Talisman's request to join forces with him. What's more, with the points from the Burning Talismans, he could easily get third place. Burning Talisman faintly smiled. Fellow Daoist Ning, the truth is that I'm not very satisfied with the other realms. I only have 100 points, and since I can't get a satisfactory realm, I might as well join you and get a piece of land in your place. You won't mind, right? Burning Talisman's strength was probably no lower than Kong Zai's. Since such a person took the initiative to befriend him, Ning Cheng naturally wouldn't refuse. He couldn't even use up 1/10 of the realm for the first place in Heavens Beyond. Giving a piece to Burning Talisman wouldn't affect him at all. Since Daoist Bone can join forces with me, I'd welcome you with open arms. Why would I refuse? Welcome, welcome, Ning Cheng quickly said with cupped fists. Burning Talisman nodded and sent a voice transmission to Ning Cheng. Daoist Ning, let's talk in detail after we're done here. Ning Cheng knew what Burning Talisman wanted to talk about in detail. It was naturally better to have a helper like Burning Talisman. However, it depended on whether Burning Talisman wanted to help him or step on him. Regardless of which it was, he would not continue to stay in the beyond of heaven and earth after the division of realms. The sacred Tao sect master, Emo, was much more powerful than him and was eager to go out and find a way to the third step. He was only at the early stage Tao integration realm and was far inferior to those experts. Even if he could barely talk to those experts, he would have to use all his strength every time, which Ning Qing didn't want to see. Nian also said with a smile, I hope to win a piece of land with my own ability, but I know I can't keep my land. Plus, I have too few points. Even if I get a realm, it will be the worst. I might as well find a good place here, Big Brother Ning. Okay, it's better if we join forces in this area, Ning Qing immediately said. Both Kong Zai and Burning Talisman were top-notch experts. Even though Nian was slightly weaker, her alchemy Dao and array Dao were very powerful. The beyond of heaven and earth was temporarily divided into regions. As for what battles would happen in the future, nobody knew. Who could be sure that all the experts would come for this realm division competition? If some experts didn't come, there would definitely be a big battle. That way, it would only be good for the alliance to be stronger. When Ning Qing finished talking to everyone and looked at him, Feng Huangmei nodded and said, Second, Divine Tao Realms Emo, 320 points in total. Everyone was confused again. Ning Qing had 370 points because of Burning Talisman and Nian and them. Then Emo left before the second battle ended. He would at most get 200 points. Where did the 320 points come from? Feng Huangmei signaled everyone to be quiet before saying, the second place is from the Divine Tao Realms Emo, 7 God Palace Missouri Zhou and Liao Gung Tao Masters combined points. Ning Qing frowned. He could understand why Liao Gung gave the points to Emo. After all, Yemo's power was 200 points when he left. Liao Gung only had 20 points. If he gave the points to Emo, he might get a good place. At the same time, he could connect with Emo. To put it simply, it was similar to what Nian did. Mo Zhou was almost killed by him. As soon as he left the tower, he probably ran. How could he give the points to Divine Tao Realm? Plus, what did he mean by giving the points to Divine Tao Realm? Thinking about this, Ning Qing sound transmissioned, Heaven Lord Feng, didn't Mo Zhou leave as soon as he came out? How could he have the chance to give the points to Divine Tao Realm? Feng Huangmei sound transmissioned, I don't know. As soon as Mo Zhou came out of the tower, he found us and said to give the points to Divine Tao Realm. I know why he did this. Nian said. Mo Zhou and Ning Qing had a conversation outside the tower. Nian saw it clearly. With her intelligence, she guessed that Mo Zhou coming out heavily injured might be related to Ning Qing. Ning Qing nodded, I know too. This person's scheme runs too deep. Mo Zhou only had 2 plans for giving the points to Divine Tao Realm Emo. First, Emo already got 200 points. As long as he gave this 100 points to Emo, he believed Emo would be first for sure. If Emo was first, he could not only suppress Ning Qing but also get one of the best 2 realms in heaven beyond heaven. Even if he were to leave now, he would still have a share of the domain allocated to him. When he returned in the future, whether for public or private reasons, he had a reason to occupy a place in this domain. This would give him an excuse to come back and fight for land. However, no one from Divine Tao sect other than Emo was here. If someone was here, they could choose not to accept it. Ning Qing sneered. Mo Zhou's thoughts were good but he didn't understand Emo. He was really blind to think Emo was easy to bully. He was certain that when Mo Zhou came back to take land, he would be taught a lesson by Emo. If this Mo Zhou wants to use such means to rob our Divine Tao Realm's land, he's really blind. Ning Cheng's words were spoken by a woman. She had delicate features and was standing next to Emo, who had seen Ning Qing before. Clearly, she could tell what Mo Zhou was thinking. Third, 9 Heaven Realm each Yenling, 50 points. 4th, Durang Realm Jiamuyu, also 50 points. Ning Qing didn't feel strange that Feng Huangmei announced the same points as the 4th and 3rd. What place was the 9 Heavens Realm? It was ranked 3rd in the outer realm of Heaven Beyond Heaven, just below Heaven Gate Realm and 3 Essence Realm. For a small realm like Durang Realm, no one felt strange that it was ranked last even if it had the same points. Even the people of Durang Realm didn't feel wronged. They were actually very excited. What they needed to do now wasn't to fight for 3rd and 4th but to keep this realm they got from Heaven Beyond Heaven. Ning Qing sighed. He didn't have the ability to say anything about this. Feng Huangmei felt it was natural and continued to announce, 5th, 3 Essence Realm Qing Shui, 20 points. 6th, 7 Aqua Realm Zhuofeng, 20 points. 7th, Shou-Yi Realm Tianihe, 20 points. This realm division battle has determined the top 7. Because a few people left, the points are invalid. The 5th, 6th, and 7th places were also divided according to the strength of the realm. Following Feng Huangmei's announcement, the people of the Heaven Gate Realm were a little sad. The Heaven Gate Realm was considered one of the big realms around Heaven Beyond Heaven, but it didn't even get a place. Apart from the Heaven Gate Realm, the innocuous realm didn't get any place. Feng Huangmei, who didn't care about this, continued, the realm of Heaven Beyond Heaven is divided into a total of 10 areas. One of them is a public area, and the heaven beyond we are in belongs to the public area. There are 2 first-class realms, one for the Great Simplicity Realm and the other for the Sacred Tao Realm. There are 3 second-class realms, which are divided into the 9 Heavens Realm, Durang Realm, and 3 Essence Realm. There are 4 third-class realms, 2 of which are divided into the 7 Aqua Realm and the Shou-Yi Realm. The last 2 are the income areas of Heaven Beyond Heaven, rented out by Heaven Beyond Heaven. The obtained resources will be used to build the defense array and defense power of Heaven Beyond Heaven. Chapter 1365. After Heavens Beyond had been redivided, it had become more prosperous and lively instead of desolation. Even though only a few major forces occupied the realm, almost all the major chambers of commerce and sects in the various dimensions had set up commercial buildings or bases in the beyond of heaven and earth. Even those relatively remote realms could not withstand these people's rush to rent, let alone Ning City, a realm that occupied the best location in Heavens Beyond. Heavens Beyond was open to all major realms, and anyone could enter any plane through Heavens Beyond, which increased the prosperity of Heavens Beyond. The Heavens Beyond was one of the largest plane realms around Heavens Beyond, but the Heavens Beyond had gained nothing in this competition. Given the status of the Heavens Beyond, they naturally could not rent the worst area. Mountain Gaze Tao Lord was familiar with Ning City, so he naturally found Ning City. Ning City had to give him face. His realm was too big and there were too many people renting it, so Ning City simply handed it over to Shilin. Shilin was the manager of the Myriad Realm auction, but after the redivision of Heavens Beyond, the Myriad Realm auction no longer existed. Coupled with the news of Ku Yusheng's possible death, Shilin simply brought a group of people to Ning City's Black-Yellow Chamber of Commerce. With so many forces and experts pouring into Heavens Beyond, no one dared to cause trouble in Heavens Beyond except for experts like Xing Shi. Moreover, the Heaven Lord of Heavens Beyond was still Feng Huangmei, who had a good relationship with Ning City and Yemo. Who would dare to offend this Heaven Lord? Therefore, after the redivision of Heavens Beyond, Ning City handed the matter over to Shilin and the others. He became idle. If Shilin could not handle it, it would be fine as long as the old fart or Aoken came forward. There was no need for him to speak at all. Nianyan also began to study the array Dao in seclusion because Ning City had said that he was going to set up a plane teleportation array. He would need her help when the time came to set up the teleportation array from Heavens Beyond to the Great Simplicity Realm. She felt that her array Dao and cultivation level were not enough, so she stayed in Heavens Beyond to cultivate in seclusion. Ning City decided to leave Heavens Beyond. In addition to returning to the Great Simplicity Realm, he also had to help Lu Dongzi find the body-shaping treasure. He also had to find the Starry Sky Wheel's artifact spirit. Ning Qing took out the communications pearl and was just about to send a message to Kong Zai when someone touched the restriction at the door. The reason why he sent a message to Kong Zai was that Ning Qing intended to invite Kong Zai out with him. At the same time, he also wanted to help Kong Zai get back the Tai Chi Human King art. At the same time, he also wanted to ask Kong Zai to help him look for Earth Dao Monarch Xinyun in the Grand Essence realm. He had never interacted with Xinyun before, so he naturally did not know about this. However, the relationship between the 5 great Dao monarchs of the 5 great realms wasn't shallow. If Xinyun really was in the Grand Essence realm, Kong Zai might have sensed something. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness had already seen Dao Lord Burning Talisman standing at the door. In fact, even if Dao Lord Burning Talisman gave him the points, it wouldn't affect him much. It could even be said that he had helped Dao Lord Burning Talisman, not the other way around. This time, Heavens Beyond was divided into realms. The first and second realms were both first-class realms, so there was not much difference. Even if Burning Talisman did not give him the points, he would at least be in second place. However, Dao Lord Burning Talisman was an expert in the Dao of Talismans. Other than Fu Lai, whom he had never seen before, Dao Lord Burning Talisman was the strongest in the Dao of Talismans. Since such a person had taken the initiative to befriend him, Ning Qing naturally would not ignore him. Besides, his realm was large to begin with. Giving a piece to Burning Talisman would not affect him at all. Dao friend Ning, I hope I didn't disturb you. After Ning Qing opened the restriction, Dao Lord Burning Talisman politely greeted him with cupped fists. Ning Qing also politely invited Dao Lord Burning Talisman in. Dao friend Bone, you're too polite. We're considered allies now. How could you disturb me? Dao Lord Burning Talisman listened to Ning Cheng's words with a satisfied expression. He sat down and said, Brother Ning, you can call me Burning Talisman. Seeing Ning Qing nod, Burning Talisman continued, Brother Ning should have guessed why I came here to look for you. Yes, it's about the Second Creation War. If I'm not wrong, Brother Ning also has a top-notch cultivation technique and even a creation treasure. Ning Cheng was not surprised that Burning Talisman could guess some things. Ning Cheng was already prepared for these old things. Even if he did not admit it, these old guys had a sixth sense. Ning Qing neither admitted nor denied it. He still said with a smile, Brother Burning Talisman, you've seen the First Creation War. I'm just a junior. It's really frightening that Brother Burning Talisman thinks so highly of me. Burning Talisman said with a straight face, No, we cultivate the Tao first. If we rely on age, it's not only unfair but also meaningless. Everyone can't report their lifespan when the gate of creation opens, right? Besides, how many people who can stand in front of the gate of creation are not reincarnations of experts? Ning Qing suddenly thought of his own matters. He had many questions. However, Burning Talisman did not have a good relationship with him. Even if he wanted to ask these questions, he could not ask Burning Talisman. Burning Talisman did not know what Ning Cheng was thinking and said, Brother Ning, I didn't mean to scare you. Given your strength in heavens beyond, you're indeed an expert among experts. Even if Xian Mao wanted to kill you, I'm afraid he wouldn't be able to. However, I know that your relationship with Xing Shi is terrible and she has a strong desire to kill you. If you don't care, you'll die in her hands one day. Ning Qing knew what Burning Talisman meant, which was to form an alliance with him. He could form an alliance with Burning Talisman, but he did not necessarily have to join forces with Burning Talisman in the Creation War. Burning Talisman was different from Kong Zai. Kong Zai was a magnanimous person, but Burning Talisman was much more sinister. Moreover, Burning Talisman's sinister nature might not even be detected by others. Burning Talisman seemed to be competing with Fu Lai for the #1 Talisman Dao expert, so he had some temperament. In fact, Ning Qing vaguely felt that this was not the case. Upon seeing Ning Qing remain silent, Burning Talisman said again, If I told you that Xing Shi could kill Xian Mao as easily as breathing, would you believe me? Ning Qing knew that Xing Shi could kill Xian Mao, but Burning Talisman said that it was as easy as breathing. He really had some doubts. You don't have to doubt it. Xing Shi's current strength is infinitely close to the time when Sacred Lord Green Lotus was at the creation realm. When I was still an ant, I saw Sacred Lord Green Lotus take the initiative to attack once from afar. That power can only be described as looking down on all living beings. Burning Talisman said with shock in his eyes. Brother Burning Talisman, do you know the relationship between Xing Shi and Sacred Lord Green Lotus? Ning Qing quickly asked when he heard Sacred Lord Green Lotus. Burning Talisman regained his composure and said faintly, I don't know. What you should be concerned about now is what will happen to you once Xing Shi returns. I have a place that can help you reach the third step. After you reach the third step, you will return here, and my strength will improve further. How about we discuss joining forces in the creation war then? Ning Qing knew that Burning Talisman would never be so kind as to find a way to help him reach the third step. However, he could not hear any malice from Burning Talisman. Burning Talisman seemed to know that Ning Qing did not believe him, so he took out an ancient jade talisman and handed it to Ning Qing before saying, there is a dark void canyon between the Jiao Liang realm and the Chaos realm. This dark void canyon is called the Chaos Dark Void Canyon. As long as you find this dark void canyon and crush this jade talisman, you can teleport to the Chaos realm. With your strength, reaching the third step in the Chaos realm is not a problem. Seeing Ning Qing look at him in doubt, Burning Talisman looked slightly embarrassed. Don't ask me where this dark void canyon is. I don't know either. The reason why my third step is not that powerful is that I haven't found this dark void canyon. If I had found it, I would not have given you this jade talisman. So, you want me to help you find this Chaos Dark Void Canyon? Ning Qing said with a sneer. Maybe I want to find the Dark Void Canyon, but I didn't lie to you when I told you that you can reach the third step in the Chaos realm. I just hope that after you reach the third step, you will remember my recommendation. Then, we can talk about joining forces in the creation war. Burning Talisman stood up and said. Ning Qing saw a hint of embarrassment in the corner of Burning Talisman's eyes and felt that his guess was right. Brother Ning, I will take my leave first. If Brother Ning needs anything, you can find me at any time. I have been staying in the heavens beyond of heaven and earth. After Burning Talisman finished speaking, he cupped his fists towards Ning Qing and turned to leave. Ning Qing looked at the jade talisman in his hand repeatedly. This jade talisman looked ancient and vicissitudes of life, almost comparable to the fragment of the good fortune indestructible axe he had obtained. Given the vicissitudes of life and the simplicity of this jade talisman, it shouldn't be something that Burning Talisman had refined himself. After looking at it for a long time, Ning Qing still couldn't find any clues. Ning Qing forcibly penetrated the jade talisman with his spiritual consciousness. However, as soon as his spiritual consciousness touched the jade talisman, it was blocked. Ning Qing didn't care whether the jade talisman would be damaged or not. Instead, his spiritual consciousness blasted in. He caught a vast and magnificent chaotic Dao charm aura. At that moment, Ning Qing felt like he was in a realm where the Chaos realm had just opened. This realm had an endless and vast heaven and earth aura, and endless Dao rhymes were constantly circulating around it. A powerful pressure blasted into Ning Cheng's sea of consciousness. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness could no longer stay and instantly withdrew. The moment his spiritual consciousness withdrew, Ning Qing felt a trace of Burning Talisman's aura. Ning Cheng's mouth showed a hint of a smile. Burning Talisman really wanted him to help him find the Chaos realm. Burning Talisman should have guessed that he had a good fortune treasure on him. It should be easier to find the Chaos realm with a good fortune treasure. If this was the case, Ning Qing felt relieved. It was just helping Burning Talisman find a place. Moreover, from the Jade Talisman, Ning Qing could tell that the Chaos realm would indeed bring him great benefits. No, Ning Qing thought of an old monster like Burning Talisman. How could he not know that Burning Talisman had a method to enter the Jade Talisman with his spiritual consciousness explosion? Did he then pry into the trace of spiritual consciousness he left behind? If Burning Talisman thought of this and let him misunderstand, it meant that Burning Talisman didn't just give him the Jade Talisman to help him find the Chaos realm. While Ning Qing was still hesitating, the restriction at the door fluctuated again. Ning Qing knew that Kong Zai had come. He stood up and decided to go with Kong Zai to Taisha first. He could also ask Kong Zai about the Chaos Realm's third step Dao confirming realm. Chapter 1366. Brother Ning, are we leaving? Kong Zai and Ning Cheng were already very familiar with each other. He also knew that Ning Cheng had invited him here because he was probably preparing to leave the beyond of heaven and earth. Therefore, he asked directly as soon as he entered. Ning Cheng nodded and spoke, "Yes, we will leave immediately. By the way, I have another question to ask you. Do you know about the Chaos Realm?" Kong Zai smiled slightly and replied without any surprise, "Burning Talisman must have told you this. People at our level all know about the Chaos Realm. However, it's very difficult to find the Chaos Realm. Even if you find it, it's very difficult to enter the third step of Dao validation. Burning Talisman indeed told me about it. But why is it so difficult to reach Dao confirming realm even after finding it?" Ning Qing felt puzzled. Kong Zai explained patiently, "There are 3 difficulties in entering the Chaos Realm. The first difficulty is that it's very difficult to find the Chaos Realm. The second difficulty is that even if we find the edge of the Chaos Realm, we still need the Chaos Jade Talisman." Ning Cheng's heart moved. Was the ancient Jade Talisman that Burning Talisman gave him the Chaos Jade Talisman? Kong Zai continued, "The third difficulty is that if you are not careful in the Chaos Realm, you will be torn apart by the Dao runes. Even if one was able to block those Dao rhymes, it was still possible for one to turn into a lunatic. There were very few who could reach the third step of Dao validation. Of course, every divine emperor who proved his Dao in the Chaos Realm is a peerless powerhouse." "Brother Kong, what kind of place is the Chaos Realm?" Ning Cheng asked again. Kong Zai said with yearning, "I heard that at the beginning of the universe, when the primordial chaos was just divided, the laws of heaven and earth were in a mess. However, the heavenly Dao was natural. After the baptism of time, the messy heavenly Dao laws gradually formed a clear hierarchy. The Chaos Realm is a realm that was formed when the universe first separated. Because there are too many chaotic laws in this realm, the various auras are too mottled, and it is impossible to distinguish the levels. In the end, it condensed into a realm. Then, if the Chaos Realm still has the Dao charm of the Chaos laws, doesn't it mean that even if we enter the Chaos Realm now, it would be almost the same as facing the boundary where the primal chaos first separated?" Ning Cheng asked in amazement. Kong Zai nodded and said, "That's right. Even though there is a slim chance of survival in the Chaos Realm, many people still want to find this place and enter. Do you know who the experts in the first creation war were? Almost all of those sovereigns had come into contact with the aura of the great Dao of primal chaos when the universe first separated. It was precisely because of this that they were incomparably powerful. It was just that when the universe was first formed, the laws of the great Dao were not complete, and cultivation required twice the effort for half the result. Now, even though there was no aura of the Great Path of Chaos, the Great Path rules were very complete, and the concept of cultivation had been developed to the extreme. Even without the aura of the Great Dao of Chaos, there were still many experts. This is also why the possessors of treasures of fortune are so powerful. It's because the possessors of treasures of fortune can sense some primal chaos aura." Ning Cheng understood what Kong Zai meant. Although the Chaos Realm had a slim chance of survival, it contained the aura of the primal Chaos Grand Dao. If one could enter the Chaos Realm to gain enlightenment and reach the third step, one would naturally be an expert among experts. At this point, Kong Zai smiled again. The Chaos Realm is very difficult to find. Only those with creation treasures have the opportunity to come into contact with it. Even if he wanted to come into contact with them, he would have to go to the dark void. In the vast universe, there were billions of dark voids. Who could search for them one by one? Of course, if you possess a creation treasure, you might be able to sense the aura of the Chaos Realm's great Dao of primal chaos even more. Kong Zai stopped here. He suddenly understood why Burning Talisman told Ning Cheng about the Chaos Realm. Burning Talisman suspected that Ning Cheng had a creation treasure. Ning Cheng had just advanced to the Dao integration realm, yet he was already so powerful. It was normal for him to have a creation treasure. Ning Cheng finally understood why Burning Talisman had desperately tried to get close to him. Burning Talisman definitely didn't just want to join forces with him to find the Chaos Realm. There had to be other reasons. Ning Cheng suddenly thought of the sacred Dao sect master, Yi Mo, and Xing Shi. Both of them had creation treasures. They had chased him all the way and had gone to many places. Perhaps they had already come into contact with the Chaos Realm. In the previous competition, the two of them had left at the same time. It was also possible that they were competing to go to the Chaos Realm first. Brother Kong, apart from the Chaos Jade Talisman, is there any other way to enter the Chaos Realm? Ning Cheng quickly asked, thinking that Yi Mo and Xing Shi might have gone to the Chaos Realm first. Kong Zai thought about it for a while before shaking his head and saying, the Chaos Jade Talisman was also formed when the universe first separated. Perhaps other objects formed when the universe first separated also have a way to enter. This is just my speculation. Then what about the law world? For example, time law world, space law world. Ning Cheng had a premonition thinking about the time law world Yi Mo created outside Earth. Yi Mo and Xing Shi probably found a way to enter the Chaos Realm because of that exam question. Then, Yi Mo went to find the time law world while Xing Shi probably went to find another way to enter. Kong Zai nodded, the law world is indeed something formed when the universe first separated, but I haven't been to the border of the Chaos Realm, so I'm not sure. Ning Cheng suddenly had an urgent thought, he wanted to go back to Earth to take a look. Yi Mo didn't leave for long. If he could make it in time, he could catch up to Yi Mo and go to the Chaos Realm with Yi Mo. Since it was an opportunity, it wasn't for everyone. If he fell behind, he might never have the chance to vindicate third step in the Chaos Realm. Even if he reached creation state, he would be a far cry from Yi Mo and Xing Shi. Ning Cheng didn't want to go from being on the same level to being a level weaker. With his current power, he couldn't just tear open the void and go back to Earth. He could only go back to the four great cosmos first and then go back to Yi Xing continent and then find a way back. Great Beginning Realm. Ever since Zhu Qinyi had dealt with Lu Dongzi, the Society Master of Elixir Association, and Lord of Dao Tai Su had come here to fight with Zhu Qinyi, no one else had come here, nor had anyone come out. This was because this realm was sealed. If it wasn't for the person who sealed the realm opening it, outsiders would have to force their way in. Or perhaps a peerless almighty would tear apart this domain seal. Naturally, no one in the 5 great realms dared to break the realm seal of the Great Beginning Realm. Similarly, no powerful being could tear open the realm seal. Even Kong Zai, who was standing outside the realm seal of the Primordial Beginning Realm, sighed and said, Brother Ning was able to escape from here back then. It was already very impressive. Although Zhu Qinyi lost 90% of his power, his control of the Great Beginning Realm hasn't weakened at all. No wonder he wants the 5 soil. He wants to repair the Great Beginning Realm. Even Kong Zai couldn't open the realm seal. Ning Cheng chuckled, I was lucky to escape before he completely sealed it. If I had been a little bit slower, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to stand here today. Apart from blasting this realm seal, I really can't help you with my current ability. Kong Zai stared at the powerful realm seal in front of him and spoke with some frustration. Ning Cheng grabbed a handful of array flags and said, Brother Kong, rest assured. You just need to help me keep an eye on it and don't let Zhu Qinyi slip away. After saying that, Ning Cheng kept throwing out array flags. On the side, Kong Zai looked on in amazement at the originally flawless domain sealing restriction. But under Ning Cheng's array flags, it clearly became clearer. He knew that Ning Cheng was proficient in the array Dao, but he didn't expect Ning Cheng's array Dao to be this powerful. With such a powerful array Dao level in the competition, Missouri Zhou wouldn't even have a chance at first place. After the restriction array appeared, Ning Cheng suddenly pointed out with a finger. Since he wasn't dealing with a strong enemy, Ning Cheng didn't need to go all out to use his order-breaking finger. Boom! A dull shattering sound rang out. Ning Cheng took a step forward and raised his hand to grab it. Ning Qing tore open a gap that was dozens of feet long, and the clear appearance of the primordial realm appeared between Ning Qing and Kong Zai's spiritual consciousness. I'll go in first. You stay here and prevent Zhu Qinyi from escaping. After Ning Qing said that, he stepped into the primordial realm first. Ning Qing knew that Zhu Qinyi's escape method was very powerful. Sure enough, as soon as Ning Qing landed on the primordial realm's realm, Zhu Qinyi's powerful aura rushed over. To Ning Qing's relief, Zhu Qinyi didn't escape but stood in front of him. Even Ning Qing was secretly shocked by the speed at which Zhu Qinyi's strength soared. How long had it been? Zhu Qinyi was already at the late-stage Dao integration realm. Ning Qing, what enmity do I have with you? I sealed my realm, but you still forced it open. You're going too far, Zhu Qinyi scolded sternly. He was also secretly shocked. When Ning Qing had first come here, he had only been at the late-stage primordial chaos. This time, he was actually at the early-stage Dao integration realm. He had only reached the late-stage Dao integration realm when he had recovered his strength in his own realm. Was Ning Qing also recovering his strength? No, that was definitely not the case. It was precisely because Ning Qing's strength had risen so terrifyingly and he had forcibly torn open his realm seal that he didn't dare to act rashly. Otherwise, he would have attacked Ning Qing as soon as he appeared. Although his current strength was several times stronger than it had been in the past, Ning Qing had advanced from primordial chaos to Dao integration, so his strength was probably several times stronger. He hadn't been Ning Qing's match back then, and he still wasn't Ning Qing's match now. Ning Qing's aura locked onto Zhu Qinyi and he said calmly, I told you that I won't let you off since you took away my stationary soil. Today, I'm here to ask for something from you. Dream on. Even though he knew that he wasn't Ning Qing's match, Zhu Qinyi wasn't willing to hand over stationary soil to Ning Qing. There was a limited amount of chaotic 5 soil. Even though he had obtained a piece of stationary soil, it didn't mean that he could get a second piece. This was related to his reunification of the realm. How could he hand it over to Ning Qing? Where's your book? Ning Qing asked, seemingly surprised. Zhu Qinyi snorted. With a wave of his hand, an ancient book filled with the aura of an emperor appeared above Zhu Qinyi's head. 5 golden characters floated above the ancient book, Tai Chi Human King Technique. As you wish. Zhu Qinyi was ready to escape. Even if he couldn't beat Ning Qing in his territory, Ning Qing wouldn't be able to keep him if he wanted to leave. Zhu Qinyi, what did I do to you? You plotted against me for a book. You. Kong Zai's figure landed, his angry and somewhat disappointed voice echoing. Chapter 1367. It's you. Kong Zai. Zhu Qinyi was immediately stunned. He thought that Kong Zai's soul had been destroyed and he had long since died. Even if Kong Zai didn't perish and reincarnate, it was impossible for him to cultivate to the point where his strength surpassed him so quickly, right? Yes, it's me, Kong Zai. Zhu Qinyi, I, Kong Zai, have never let you down. Not to mention you, I, Kong Zai, have never plotted against my friends behind their backs. Why did you do this? Kong Zai looked extremely disappointed. Zhu Qinyi finally reacted, he gave a sigh, and without any hesitation he threw the Tai Chi Human King art in his hands to Kong Zai, and then took out a jade box and threw it to Ning Qing. I'll give it to you, if you want to kill then go ahead. Ning Qing grabbed the jade box and swept out with his spiritual consciousness, confirming that the jade box indeed contained the stabilizing soil. He was also quite confused. Zhu Qinyi truly felt ashamed, and that was why he took the initiative to return the item, and then wait for death? No, Ning Qing quickly understood. He had fought with Zhu Qinyi before, long knowing that Zhu Qinyi was vicious and merciless, that he definitely wouldn't hand over something out of shame. The reason he handed over the item was because he knew that he had no chance of escaping in front of him and Kong Zai, so he might as well be more straightforward. Kong Zai grasped the Taiji Human King incantation that he had lost for who knew how many years and had once again returned to his hands, filled with emotion. When he was plotted against and robbed of the Tai Chi Human King art, he didn't even know who dared to do it. Unexpectedly, it was Zhu Qinyi. You have the remote beginning eternal heaven art, so why did you plot against me and seize my ultimate human king art? Kong Zai didn't attack Zhu Qinyi, instead asking with a serious voice. Zhu Qinyi said with a desolate expression, because I was plotted against by Xiao Wen, the primordial beginning eternal heaven technique was snatched away by him. I saw that you were heavily injured, so I had evil intentions. So if you want to kill me now, I have no objections. Impossible. Kong Zai said without hesitation, Big Brother Xiao Wen has an extraordinary bearing and is compatible with the world. How could he plot against you and snatch the remote beginning eternal heaven technique? Zhu Qinyi frowned slightly and said, he plotted against me, believe it or not, it's up to you. Ning Qing did not speak. The remote beginning eternal heavenly technique was on him, and the origin of this cultivation method was indeed related to Xiao Wen. He didn't know if Xiao Wen had plotted against Zhu Qinyi, nor did he want to know. As for returning the remote beginning eternal heaven technique to Zhu Qinyi, Ning Cheng had never thought about it. If it was something that belonged to Kong Zai, he might have returned it. He did not have a good impression of Zhu Qinyi. Fellow Taoist Ning, let's go. In any case, we are brothers, I don't want to kill him. Kong Zai did not continue to pursue this matter, but looked at Ning Cheng. Obviously, he wanted Ning Cheng to let Zhu Qinyi off this time. The primal beginning world was Zhu Qinyi's territory. Since he didn't want to kill Zhu Qinyi, he could only leave. As for killing Zhu Qinyi or not, Ning Cheng did not care much about it. If Kong Zai wanted revenge, he would support him. If Kong Zai was not willing to take revenge, he would not say anything. Ning Cheng and Kong Zai walked out of the primordial world, and Kong Zai remained silent. Ning Cheng didn't know how to comfort Kong Zai. Back then, the 5 Tao monarchs of the 5 grand realms were quite close. After leaving the primal beginning realm, Kong Zai took the initiative to say, Brother Ning, although the 5 of us competed back then, we were like brothers. They even participated in the creation war together. It was also because of the creation war that the 5 of us died. Xiao Wen has always been our big brother. He is generous and forthright, and he is also the strongest. I really find it hard to believe that he would plot against Zhu Qinyi and snatch the primordial heavenly technique. But my intuition tells me that Zhu Qinyi did not lie. Ning Qing patted Kong Zai on the shoulder and decided not to hide it from Kong Zai. Brother Kong, I once went to the Jiaoyang Sea. I saw Xiao Wen's remains in the Jiaoyang Sea. Of course, I don't know if the person who died was Xiao Wen or not. Tao monarch Formless died in the Jiaoyang Sea. Kong Zai's expression suddenly turned gloomy when he heard this. He then murmured, yes, he and Tao monarch Formless' second son, Nie Xiu, were good friends. Ning Qing continued, Nie Xiu indeed died there. Tao monarch Formless should have been seriously injured by the good fortune indestructible axe's axe line Tao charm. At that time, he couldn't expel the Tao charm aura and finally died in the North Duke mansion. Did you see anything there? Kong Zai asked worriedly. But he only asked half of the sentence and didn't continue. Ning Qing knew what Kong Zai wanted to ask and simply said, I did see the remote beginning eternal heaven technique. I have this cultivation method with me now. Kong Zai remained silent for a long time before giving out a long sigh. Back then, the 5 of us found the 5 grand realms. After opening them, we snatched 5 groups of innate Tao charm golden lights. Among them, Tao monarch Formless Xiao Wen obtained the Devil Scroll and the Tao Scroll. Tao monarch Changtian Zhu Qinyi obtained the Heaven Scroll and the Tao Scroll. Tao monarch Supreme Unity Bei Yingshu obtained the Immortal Scroll and the Buddha Scroll. Tao monarch Grand Beginning. Tao monarch Earth Shenyun obtained the Earth Scroll and the Tao monarch Grand Simplicity. I obtained the Human Scroll and the Tao monarch Grand Ultimate. At that time, the 5 of us roamed the vast void and talked about the endless years. At this point, Kong Zai paused for a long time before giving out another long sigh. At that time, the 5 of us worked together with great ambitions and even named the 5 grand realms good fortune. Unfortunately, things have changed. No matter how high we cultivate, no matter how long we live, we still can't see through it. The human heart. When Ningqing heard Kong Zai's words, he swallowed the words to ask Kong Zai to help him check if Shen Yun was in the Tao Monarch Grand Simplicity. Whether Shen Yun was there or not, he was Kong Zai's friend. Inviting Kong Zai to deal with Shen Yun now would be a bit unreasonable. It was just like a new friend inviting him to deal with Tai Shu Shi. How could he do such a thing? Kong Zai obviously saw Ning Cheng's embarrassment, and the nostalgic look on his face had long since dissipated. He spoke with a calm tone, "Don't you have a Tao court in the Grand Essence Realm and a Grand Essence Mountain? When you repair the Grand Essence Realm, I will leave. If you have something to do, you can go ahead and do it. With me in the Grand Essence Mountain, nothing will go wrong." Ning Cheng cupped his fists and said, "Many thanks, Brother Kong." He understood Kong Zai's meaning. Whether Shen Yun was hiding in the Grand Essence Realm or not, he wouldn't tell Ning Cheng about Shen Yun's whereabouts. But he also promised to stay in the Grand Essence Mountain and help Ning Cheng defend his territory. Even if Shen Yun came back, it wouldn't cause any harm to Ning Cheng. This kind of result, for Ning Cheng, could not be any better. In fact, even if Tao Monarch Earth was in the Grand Essence Realm, Ning Cheng wouldn't be afraid of him. An Earth Tao Lord would at most have the same strength as Kong Zai. Even if he was strong, he wouldn't be ridiculously strong. After Kong Zai obtained the Tai Chi Human King technique, his strength would definitely surpass his own. But with his strength after Tao perfection, coupled with the Grand Essence Mountain's defensive array, he wouldn't be any weaker than Shen Yun. The only thing he worried about was what would happen if Shen Yun appeared when he wasn't in the Grand Essence Realm. According to Shen Yun's thinking, he might even consider the Grand Essence Realm as his own territory. If he were to recover, the Taisu Tao Court would be destroyed by him. This kind of ancient powerhouse would never care about his life. But with Kong Zai's promise, he wouldn't care about it anymore. What's more, once he started to repair the Grand Essence Realm, even if Shen Yun hid in a hidden corner, he would know about it. Everything in the Grand Essence Realm remained the same. Under Li Feng's control, nothing happened to the Grand Essence Tao Court. As soon as Ning Cheng came back, Li Feng knew about it and was the first one to greet him. "Court Pillar Li, you've worked hard while I was away." Ning Cheng saw Li Feng and quickly greeted her. Although Ning Cheng was Li Feng's Tao Lord, he still respected Li Feng. Li Feng had helped the Tao Court the most, and he didn't have much selfishness. His only selfishness was to wait for Ning Cheng to repair the Grand Essence Realm and let the mysterious ancient tribe prosper again. For this selfishness, he was even willing to take out his growth rings. Li Feng looked at Ning Cheng in shock. "Tao Lord, did you succeed in Tao perfection?" Ning Cheng smiled slightly. "Yes, I succeeded in Tao perfection. I won't be back for long this time, and I'll go out again soon. When I come back, I'll take you guys to Tao perfection." Speaking of this, Ning Cheng sighed in his heart. Tao perfection was only difficult in the Grand Essence Realm, where the laws were broken. In a place like the mysterious yellow heavens beyond, Tao perfection holy emperors were nothing. Good, good. Li Feng said happily. He believed that Ning Cheng wouldn't lie to him. Of course, he was happy about Tao perfection, but more importantly, how powerful would Ning Cheng be after Tao perfection? One could say that the Grand Essence Realm had no worries. When Ning Cheng was at primordial chaos, he could easily kill Tao perfection holy emperors. Now that Ning Cheng had reached Tao perfection, there was no need to mention his strength. By the way, Court Pillar Li, did Han Qianwei do anything? Although Ning Cheng wasn't worried about Han Qianwei, he still asked. "No, Deacon Han has already found a lot of repair materials. I've observed him for a while, and he's doing his best. It looks like he really wants the Grand Essence Realm to be repaired as soon as possible." Li Feng replied. Ning Cheng nodded. "I still lack a kind of balanced soil. I've already gathered all the other materials. Once I find the balanced soil, the Grand Essence Realm can be repaired." When Li Feng heard that there was only one kind of balanced soil missing, he immediately became excited. If it weren't for the fact that this kind of thing couldn't be disclosed casually, he would have told everyone in the Grand Essence Realm. When Ning Qing said that he wanted to repair the Grand Essence Realm, he thought it was just a belief. The reason why he fully supported Ning Qing was because he wanted the Grand Essence Realm to have this belief. How many years had passed since then? Ning Qing really had a way to repair the Grand Essence Realm. He, Li Feng, really didn't read the wrong person. Ning Qing could feel Li Feng's excitement. He cupped his fists and said to Li Feng again, "Court Pillar Li, I'll only be gone for a short time this time. If there's anything you can't solve, go straight to Grand Essence Mountain. I've already occupied a place in heavens beyond. When the Grand Essence Realm is repaired, I'll build a teleportation array to heavens beyond here. Dao Monarch, don't worry. Li Feng will remember Dao Monarch's instructions." Heavens beyond was very important to people like Ning Qing, but for Li Feng, it was far less important than a hair of the Grand Essence Realm. Ning Qing didn't go to the Grand Essence Dao Court and directly took Kong Zai back to Grand Essence Mountain. Almost everyone was in seclusion in Grand Essence Mountain, so Ning Qing didn't disturb them. He planned to call Rulan and Luofei out the next time he came back. After saying hello to Chu Manhe and introducing Kong Zai, Ning Qing hurriedly left the Grand Essence Realm. He had to hurry to find Yemo. He couldn't miss the opportunity to enter the Chaos Realm. If he missed it, he didn't know when he would have to find the Chaos Realm by himself. Chapter 1368. In the void outside named Descendant Celestial River, Jiangzhou Star, one of the 4 grand starry skies, Ning Qing looked at the void in front of him with a blank mind. Jiangzhou Star had disappeared. He had taken over Jiangzhou Star, and it was also the place where all his friends cultivated in the starry skies. But now, Jiangzhou Star's position was only an endless void. Not to mention the mysterious yellow sect he established, even covered Snow City had disappeared. Ning Cheng's heart gradually turned cold. Jiangzhou Star was protected by his star-protecting Grand Array, which meant that it would never be swept away by the starry sky turbulence. Similarly, his star-protecting Grand Array was so strong that no one in the 4 grand starry skies could break it. Even if someone could break it, no one would dare to attack Jiangzhou Star. The only explanation was that someone had destroyed Jiangzhou Star, and it wasn't someone from the 4 grand starry skies who destroyed Jiangzhou Star, but an outsider powerhouse. Killing intent rose from the bottom of Ning Cheng's heart and spread around Ning Cheng. This killing intent cut through the surrounding laws of space and made ka-ka sounds. This was the first time Ning Cheng had such a strong killing intent. No matter who it was, since they destroyed Jiangzhou Star, he would make them pay back several times over. But what about his friends in Jiangzhou Star? Was Zhang Caihe there? What about Li Lingfan, Zhang Qian, Luo Zian and the others? The planet had been destroyed by someone, so their chances of survival were very slim. A flame burned in Ning Cheng's heart, and his spiritual consciousness stretched out without any scruples. His spiritual consciousness passed through one planet after another. Although his spiritual consciousness couldn't cover every corner of the 4 grand starry skies, it could still see many places. As his spiritual consciousness slowly spread out, he saw Zhen Yan, and then Jing Hao and Xian Yu, who had eloped with Jing Hao. Seeing that the two still had a good relationship, Ning Qing didn't disturb them. He didn't want to see the two of them either. Following that, Ning Qing saw Taishu Shi. Ning Qing felt happy in his heart, and the raging killing intent finally concealed a bit. After he lost contact with Taishu Shi in Graceful Star Mainland, he hadn't heard any news from him. Ning Qing didn't expect to see Taishu Shi in this place. Just when Ning Qing wanted to go and find Taishu Shi, his spiritual consciousness swept towards Lanya and Shi Yulan. Next to Lanya and Shi Yulan was the person he wanted to see the most, Luo Zian, who used to cultivate on Jiangzhou Star. Luo Zian, like Ning Qing, came from Graceful Star Mainland's Rainbow Fall Sword sect. Moreover, she had been cultivating in Stately River Star for a long time, so how could Ning Qing not care about it? As for why Stately River Star was destroyed, just ask Luo Zian. Ning Qing decided to first find Luo Zian and ask her about what happened to Jiangzhou Star before going to find Taishu Shi. Lanya, Shi Yulan and Luo Zian sat on the ground floor of a rest stop within the Eternal Heaven Starry Sky City. Fortunately, they did not enter the booths. If they entered the booths, even with Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness, he would not be able to break through the endless restrictions covering the 4 Grand Starry Skies booths. Lanya, Shi Yulan, Luo Zian, why are you here? Ning Cheng almost tore through the void in the shortest time possible and arrived at the table where the 3 of them sat. In recent years, the Starry Skies vicissitudes aura around Lanya's body had grown even heavier, and her cultivation had also reached the undead realm. Shi Yulan's cultivation was slightly higher than Lanya's, reaching the Heaven's Mandate realm of the Celestial River's 3 realms. However, Luo Zian, who had cultivated the shortest amount of time, had the same strength as Lanya, in the undead realm. Ning Cheng understood that it was because Luo Zian cultivated in Stately River Star. Stately River Star had no shortage of cultivation resources or medicinal pills. With a genius like Luo Zian, she definitely had access to more resources. Almost at the same time, Lanya and the other 2 stood up, each with a look of disbelief on their faces. Sect Master, you're back. Luo Zian's tone turned even more excited. Big Brother Ning. Shi Yulan and Lanya also called out. Shi Yulan felt the most emotional in her heart. She had desperately cultivated and wanted to raise her cultivation realm to a higher level. However, compared to Ning Cheng, the distance between her and Ning Cheng was not just a starry sky. She originally thought that she would never have a chance to see Ning Cheng again, but she inadvertently met him. Everyone, please sit down. Junior apprentice Sister Zian, just call me Senior apprentice Brother Ning. Ning Cheng completely converged his killing intent. Although he desperately needed to know what was going on, he also knew that Lanya and the other 2 could not withstand his killing intent with their current strength. As the 3 of them sat down, Lanya and Shi Yulan both looked at Luo Zian. They knew that Ning Cheng's main purpose in coming here was to find Luo Zian. Luo Zian hadn't spoken yet, but her eyes turned red. Ning Cheng took in a deep breath and tried to speak in a slow tone. Junior apprentice Sister Zian, tell me in detail how Stately River Star was destroyed. Don't miss anything. What happened to my mysterious yellow sex people in Stately River Star? What about Deputy Sect Master Tsang Saiha? What about Li Lingfan, Zhang Qian and Gong Xiuzhu? What about the hundreds of millions of cultivators living in Stately River Star? Ning Cheng asked several questions in one breath. Luo Zian nodded and spoke with a slightly hoarse voice. If it weren't for Jing Yi's special reminder, I'm afraid that no one in Stately River Star would have been able to escape. Did that woman from the everlasting sacred shrine do it? Ning Cheng suddenly thought of the saintess Shu Chang he saw in the mysterious yellow heavens beyond. With Shu Chang's strength, she couldn't destroy Stately River Star. It must have been done by that evil woman Xing Shi. Ning Cheng clenched his fists and wished he could immediately kill that evil woman to avenge all the innocent people in Stately River Star. Luo Zian nodded. That woman, Shu Chang, can't destroy Stately River Star. It's her new master. I haven't met her master, but I heard rumors that she stepped on a green lotus and smashed the entire Stately River Star with a raise of her hand. Even after such a long time, Luo Zian still spoke in a sad tone. She had cultivated in Stately River Star for so long that she had already developed feelings for it. Moreover, she had many friends in Stately River Star. But now, these friends were all gone. If it weren't for Ning Cheng holding back his killing intent, the laws around him would have already collapsed. When that bitch Shu Chang went to the mysterious yellow heavens beyond, he actually let her go. Luo Zian continued, fortunately, Senior Apprentice Brother set up a teleportation array in Stately River Star when he left. When Jing Yi learned that Shu Chang was coming to take revenge on you, she quickly came to Stately River Star to send a message. She told us to evacuate, but unfortunately, Shu Chang and her master came too quickly. Only a few of us managed to escape, but she smashed Stately River Star with a slap. Except for a few people who escaped, no one was spared from Stately River Star. Because I left first, I was lucky enough to escape. Since Vice Sect Master Tsang stayed behind, I'm afraid he wouldn't be able to escape. Thinking of the kindness Vice Sect Master Tsang showed to all the disciples of the mysterious Yellow Sect, Luo Zian couldn't continue. How vicious! Ning Qing took in a deep breath. Stately River Star had a population of hundreds of millions. This woman named Xu Chang was just as vicious as Xing Shi. If he didn't kill Xing Shi and Xu Chang, he would rather not go to the gate of good fortune. Ning Chang's eyes turned a little red, but he didn't speak. Lanya and Shi Yulan also didn't speak. The atmosphere at this moment was a bit depressing. The three of you, come with me. A sudden voice interrupted Ning Chang's thoughts. The one who spoke was a woman in the heaven-seated realm. She looked very beautiful, but her tone was cold. Where to? Ning Cheng looked at the Lanya trio in doubt and asked. Shi Yulan quickly replied, I asked Earth Pill Grandmaster Dao Su to refine a severing filth-shadowed heavenly pill. Because many people wanted to ask Earth Pill Grandmaster for alchemy, the three of us lined up here. So that was the case. Shi Yulan was at the late stage of Heaven's Mandate realm and was about to break through to the heaven-seated realm. Thinking of this, Ning Cheng took the initiative to speak up, you don't need to refine this medicinal pill. I can help you. Shi Yulan bit her lip, although she didn't want Ning Cheng to help. However, the price of asking Dao Su to refine a severing filth-shadowed heavenly pill was sky-high. Although she lined up here, whether she could afford the crystal stones was another matter. If she couldn't afford the crystal stones, she would have to help Pill Grandmaster Dao Su. Similarly, even if she could afford the crystal stones, it would take a long time before she could ask Dao Su for alchemy. Once the refinement failed, she could only blame herself for suffering a loss. However, Dao Su rarely failed in alchemy, and the quality of the medicinal pills he produced was very good. Luo Zian also calmed down a lot at this moment. After listening to Ning Cheng's words, she also tried to persuade him, Senior Apprentice Sister Yulan, even Vice Sect Master admires Senior Apprentice Brother Ning's Tao of Alchemy. Why don't you ask Senior Apprentice Brother Ning for help? Shi Yulan stood up and gave a slight bow to Ning Cheng, many thanks, Senior Apprentice Brother Ning. Ning Cheng waved his hand, you're welcome. Let's leave this place first and then discuss it. Ning Cheng intended to return a true spirit world to Shi Yulan. The true spirit world in his hands belonged to Shi Yulan in the past. Over the years, he had no idea how many true spirit worlds he had obtained. Lanya and the other two immediately followed Ning Cheng and stood up. When the heaven-seated woman saw Shi Yulan and the other two about to leave, her face suddenly sank. She stopped in front of them and spoke with an unfriendly tone, Is Master Saber free? Since you've made an appointment, you have to go up. Luo Zian spoke up with some doubts, This elder sister, we've already paid a lot of crystal stones for the appointment. Now that we don't want the crystal stones and don't want to perform alchemy, can't we just leave? That's right. Since you've made an appointment, you have to go up. The woman spoke with an expressionless face. At this moment, a cold snort arrived and fell into the ears of Shi Yulan and the other two. It made Shi Yulan and the other two tremble, and their faces turned pale. From beginning to end, Ning Cheng didn't make a move. Instead, his spiritual consciousness passed through the restrictions and saw a man in the booth upstairs. This man had early-stage eternal cultivation and wore a starry sky Taoist robe. He looked like a celestial being. In front of him, a huge pill furnace was suspended, with a flame burning under the pill furnace. Obviously, this Taoist didn't want Shi Yulan and the other two to pay the queue fee and leave. Ning Cheng felt unhappy in his heart, yet someone took the initiative to find him. He could only blame this Dao Su for being unlucky. Let's go up and have a look. You lead the way. Ning Cheng glanced at the woman and spoke with a somewhat unpleasant tone. The woman didn't even look at Ning Cheng and took the initiative to go upstairs. Ning Cheng gave Lanya and the other two a meaningful glance, and the three of them, along with Ning Cheng, followed the woman upstairs. Chapter 1369. Previously, when he had swept out with his spiritual consciousness downstairs, Ning Cheng did not care about it. When Ning Cheng entered the Dao Mausoleum's room, he immediately stared at the huge cauldron suspended in the middle of the room. Because on the edge of the cauldron, there were 2 small seal characters engraved, 5 clones. An ordinary cauldron suddenly became extraordinary because of these 2 words. He knew about this cauldron, and he had heard about it more than once. In Lu Dongce's book on plants and vegetation, he had seen the 5-star cauldron. Apart from that, when he was exploring the heaven and earth god's grave mound, he found many broken jade slips, and one of them recorded the 5 silvery cauldron. It was rumored that Tao Lord Shenong was the #1 pill saint in the universe, just like how Tao Lord Fate had control over fate. Tao Lord Shenong had control over all the spirit herbs and alchemy in the world. Tao Lord Shenong had 3 famous cauldrons. The first was the Shenong cauldron, the second was the 5-headed cauldron, and the third was the Yen cauldron. Before Tao Lord Shenong had reached the 3rd step, he had been called the Flame Emperor. Other than that, there were also people who referred to him as the great god farmer of the 5 seas. What made it even more difficult for Ning Cheng to contain his emotions was that Tao Lord Shenong also obtained his Tao from earth. In the history of Huaxia on earth, there were rumors of Emperor Yen. Coupled with Tao Lord Purple Firmament, whom he had met once before, if it really was Hung Jun who possessed the good fortune jade disc, Ning Cheng started to suspect that the ancient legends of earth were not groundless. Which one of you wants to refine pills? Dao Su's gaze swept past the Shi Yulan trio. As for Ning Cheng, who was still in a daze, he directly ignored him. Senior, it's this junior. It's just that this junior doesn't want to practice alchemy for the time being. Shi Yulan, on seeing Ning Cheng's mind wander, quickly stood up and spoke up. After saying that, he felt that he needed a reason, so he added, this junior doesn't have that many crystals on him right now. Dao Su chuckled, I don't need crystal stones. I can wave crystal stones for the 3 of you. I'll refine a cauldron of cleansing filth shadowy pills for you for free on the condition that you do something with me. Whether it was Shi Yulan or Luo Zian, both of them not only had excellent looks, but their qualifications were also very suitable for his cultivation method. Dual cultivation with this kind of human furnace would definitely bring him unimaginable benefits. As for Lanya, although her appearance and qualifications were slightly worse, he could still reluctantly accept her. Shi Yulan's complexion turned cold. She finally understood why no one came down to call out to the 3 of them, while the others lined up. It turned out that Dao Su had been eyeing the 3 of them for a long time. Sister Yulan, let's go. Luo Zian furiously said. You want to leave? Dao Su sneered and raised his hand to grab him. As soon as the surrounding space fluctuated, Ning Cheng felt alarmed. When Dao Su's celestial essence giant hand grabbed onto Ning Cheng's defensive domain, it felt as if it had encountered a layer of hard steel. It couldn't penetrate it at all. You've got guts. Ning Cheng walked to the side of the 5 mystic cauldron and raised his hand to grab the 5 mystic cauldron. He then stared coldly at Dao Su and spoke. When Dao Su caught hold of Ning Cheng's protective domain, he felt shocked. At this time, when Ning Cheng grabbed his 5-thread cauldron, the flames under his 5-thread cauldron felt as if someone was pinching its throat, and instantly extinguished it. Not only that, along with a tearing pain from his sea of consciousness collapsing, the 5-silhouette cauldron no longer had any mental connection with him. This was a peerless powerhouse, that was Dao Su's only thought. It wasn't until this moment that he realized that from the moment he saw Ning Cheng seemed to have merged with the starry sky around him. He couldn't find anything out of place at all. Because of this, he couldn't even think of spying on Ning Cheng's true strength. Cultivation that did not have any sudden changes was the most frightening cultivation. Say, se. Dao Su felt suppressed by Ning Cheng's imposing aura and couldn't even utter the word senior for a long time. Luo Zian didn't speak, but she wasn't surprised. When Ning Cheng returned to stately River Star for the first time, his strength had already reached a terrifying level. At this time, his strength must have reached a level that she couldn't even imagine. You probably used alchemy for others and ruined many innocent female cultivators, right? Ning Cheng hadn't even moved his hand, but Dao Su already couldn't breathe. Dao Su finally knew that he could speak a complete sentence. Senior, this junior is from Culmination Grand Starry Skies Emperor Star Mountain. I beg Senior to. Oh, after Chuan Xinlo left, who became the new heavenly emperor? As Ning Qing spoke, his spiritual consciousness directly penetrated all the restrictions around Emperor Star Mountain. He saw a middle-aged man cultivating in the area with the densest starry sky essence qi in Emperor Star Mountain. Most likely, this fellow was the new heavenly emperor. Ning Qing wasn't in the mood to care about who it was and directly retracted his spiritual consciousness. Because Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness didn't cover it up, a middle-aged man cultivating in a cave in the deepest part of Emperor Star Mountain immediately felt shocked. He suddenly stood up and looked around with a horrified expression. It's Saber Different Heavenly Emperor. Dao Su quickly spoke up. I heard that every time he killed his opponent, he used a different blade, so it's called Saber Different. Lanya explained from the side. She couldn't help but sigh in her heart. When she first met Ning Qing didn't even know about the 3 realms of Celestial Scryer. But now, she was still lingering around the 3 realms of Celestial River. Ning Qing had already surpassed her by many times. Ning Qing nodded and didn't have any interest in this Saber Different. Instead, he grabbed the 5-thread cauldron and asked, "Where did you get this cauldron?" It was from a woman. Dao Su could tell that Ning Qing had a much greater interest in the 5-thread cauldron compared to him. He also knew that the 5-thread cauldron was something extraordinary. Unfortunately, in the face of such a powerhouse, not to mention the 5-thread cauldron, he might not even be able to keep his life. What about that woman? Ning Cheng's voice turned stern. No, she blew herself up. Everything on her body disappeared because of the explosion, only this cauldron remained. Dao Su broke out in cold sweat and trembled in fear. He couldn't even breathe properly. Ning Qing could tell that Dao Su wasn't lying. He gave out a sigh. Unfortunately, this woman had obtained the 5-thread cauldron. He didn't know if she came from Earth. Ning Qing no longer had the mood to talk to Dao Su. He raised his hand and slapped Dao Su's body, turning Dao Su into nothingness. Junior Saber Different greets Senior. Saber Different had already arrived outside Ning Cheng's booth. The Dao Charm aura from Ning Cheng's slap made him tremble. This aura could even kill him with a single breath. Ning Cheng walked out of the booth and looked at Saber Different standing at the door and asked in a cold voice, "Does Dao Su have anything to do with you?" "No, it has nothing to do with me. If Senior hadn't killed this person, this Junior wouldn't have known that Eternal Heaven Starry Sky City had such scum." In fact, Dao Su had nothing to do with Saber Different. Saber Different was obsessed with the Dao every day. How could he have the time to care about an ant like Dao Su who deliberately changed his surname to Dao? For Saber Different, Ning Qing standing in front of him felt like a giant mountain, boundless and boundless. Since such a senior killed Dao Su, even if he didn't know what Dao Su did, he had to say that Dao Su was a failure. "My name is Ning Qing, have you heard of me?" Ning Qing suddenly said. Saber Different looked up in surprise and said, "So Senior is the mysterious yellow sect master, this Junior knows about it. Stately River Star is the premier star of the 4 grand starry skies, and this Junior has long admired it." Then he remembered what happened in Stately River Star and quickly bowed. Regarding Stately River Star, this Junior is too weak and couldn't stop it. "Please forgive me, Senior." He felt worried that Ning Qing would use this as a pretext to kill him with a punch. Ning Qing sighed, "You can't intervene in Stately River Star's matters. I want to ask you for a favor." "Senior, please tell me." "As long as Dao Butong can do it, I will do my best to do it." Saber Different couldn't wait to slap his chest. Who didn't know about Ning Cheng's prestige? Who didn't know about him? If Ning Cheng had been in Stately River Star, then anyone who wanted to destroy Stately River Star would have been courting death. But what he didn't know was that even if Ning Cheng was in Stately River Star, he couldn't beat Xing Shi. If Ning Cheng could beat Xing Shi, he wouldn't have been in such a hurry to find the Chaos Realm. "I have something to do and have to leave. I want you to help me find a prosperous planet and rebuild Stately River Star according to Stately River Star's model." As long as the original people of Stately River Star come back, they can settle down in the new Stately River Star. Ning Qing said sincerely. Saber Different felt overjoyed and quickly said, Senior, rest assured. This junior will definitely find an excellent planet and rename it Stately River Star. Then rebuild it according to Stately River Star's model, and then rebuild the mysterious yellow sect in Stately River Star. For Saber Different, this kind of thing was a dream come true. He feared that Ning Qing wouldn't ask him for help. But as long as Ning Qing asked for help, he would gladly do it. With Ning Cheng's power, how could he lose out on benefits if he asked someone like him for help? As for planets, he managed his own grand starry sky, which meant that he had countless planets in his hands. He had already made up his mind to change the entire Culmination Starland into Stately River Starland. Culmination Starland was the center of Grand Culmination Starry Sky, so it would be best to change it into Stately River Starland. Originally, Ning Qing only intended to let Saber Different rebuild Stately River Star so that those who lost their homes could come back. Because Saber Different wasn't a disciple of Mysterious Yellow Sect, he didn't want Saber Different to rebuild Mysterious Yellow Sect. But now that Saber Different took the initiative to propose it, he felt his heart move. Saber Different quickly knelt down and said, Saber Different is willing to worship Senior as his master. Senior, please accept it. Ning Qing sighed. No wonder he could occupy Emperor Star Mountain after Chuan Xinlo left. This fellow truly was a clever person. Ning Qing took out a ring and handed it to Saber Different before saying, it contains a Dao sculpting method, along with many materials and cultivation resources. You can use it to rebuild Stately River Star. At the same time, you can also use the cultivation methods and resources inside to sculpt your Dao. I agree to let you join the Mysterious Yellow Sect and temporarily serve as the Mysterious Yellow Sect's Deputy Sect Master to rebuild Stately River Star. As for becoming a disciple, let's not talk about it for the time being. Ning Qing didn't know what kind of person Saber Different was, so he didn't want to casually accept a person as a disciple. Sure enough, after reaching Eternal, one would have to reach Dao Confirmation, which meant Dao Sculpting. Saber Different excitedly took the ring from Ning Qing and thanked him again, many thanks, Sect Master. I will definitely make Stately River Star the premier star of the 4 grand starry skies. He had been in seclusion for countless years and had been looking forward to reaching the Dao for countless years. Yet, he managed to obtain it by chance. What was destiny? This was destiny. Chapter 1370. Ning Qing took out 3 more rings and handed them to the Luoxian trio. At the same time, he sent a voice transmission to them. These 3 rings are cultivation resources for you. After you cultivate to the Eternal Realm, you can follow the jade strips in the rings to the Grand Essence Realm. After saying that, Ning Qing also said to Dao Batong, the same goes for you. When you succeed in Dao sculpting, you can hand this place over to someone you trust and then head to the Grand Essence Realm. Initially, Ning Qing planned to send Luo Zian and the other 2 to the Grand Essence Realm before coming back. But now that Dao Batong wanted to rebuild Jiangzhou Star, Ning Qing decided to let Luo Zian and the other 2 stay behind. First, the 3 of them could stay here to help. Second, with 3 familiar people, the reconstruction of Stately River Star would be much more convenient. Another point was that Ning Qing knew that he had already delayed for a long time. If he continued to delay, then he feared that he would not have any chance at all. He just hoped Yi Mo would be slower when taking that time law world. Shi Yulan gave out a sigh of relief. Accepting Ning Cheng's cultivation resources was already too much. If she accepted anything else from Ning Qing, then she would feel even more uncomfortable in her heart. She was a proud person, since she decided not to have any relationship with Ning Qing, then she did not want to keep accepting benefits from Ning Qing. After Ning Qing left Culmination Starland, when his spiritual consciousness tried to search for Tai Shu Shi, he found that Tai Shu Shi had already disappeared. He originally intended to let Tai Shu Shi go to Culmination Starland and cultivate together with Lanya and the others. Who would have thought that in such a short time, this fellow would hide in some kind of restriction? Ning Qing decided to wait until he came back to look for Tai Shu Shi. Now he did not have much time. The largest company in Jiang district would definitely be the Fairy Shadow Group. After the boss of Cheng Rulan Materials, Dai Xian, went missing, Jiangzhou's first assembly, Cheng Rulan Materials was gradually replaced by the Fairy Shadow Group. The Fairy Shadow Tower was the symbol of the Fairy Shadow Group in Jiang district. This building was 108 stories tall and stood on the riverside of Jiang district. It was 20 stories taller than the Jinmao Tower. In the largest office on the 18th floor of the Fairy Shadow Building, an excessively young girl sat behind a huge desk, a little dazed. Li, Cheng Rulan is on sale, should we buy it? A woman who looked to be in her 30s hurriedly ran in and said with a slightly excited tone. The girl raised her head blankly and looked at the woman who had rushed in. After a while, she said, "Why did you buy it?" The woman spoke up in a somewhat exasperated manner. Cheng Rulan Materials used to be the world's #1 company. Although the materials industry was in a slump, but even a skinny camel is still bigger than a horse. If we buy it and transform it a little, we will definitely be able to make a lot of money. The girl sighed, "I already have enough money, so why do I still want to earn money? When I first started the company, I didn't think about making a lot of money. The reason why Fairy Shadow could become so big was really because of luck. Yuning, I'll leave this place to you. I want to make a trip to Haidu." The excited expression on the middle-aged woman's face immediately dimmed, and she immediately said, "If you don't want to buy it, then don't buy it." Li, if I could be like you, after so many years, my appearance did not change at all, I would not be in the mood to make money. Speaking of this, the middle-aged woman suddenly became excited. Li, can you tell me, how do you take care of yourself? As long as you reveal a little, I promise I won't ask you this question again. When Su Li heard this sentence, her expression once again fell into confusion. After a while, she shook her head and did not speak. In her mind, the person who fell from the sky once again appeared. Although she later knew that that person was not an immortal, but someone from Jiangzhou, she still could not separate him from the immortal. Ning Qing stood outside the Earth's atmosphere and swept out with his spiritual consciousness. There was no shadow of Yi Mo around the Earth. As for the time law world that Yi Mo spoke of, he also did not see it. Ning Qing sighed. Sure enough, he was a step too late. Originally, Ning Qing did not intend to return to Earth, but when his spiritual consciousness swept out to the Pharaoh Brook Mountain, he saw that Yi Lei had unexpectedly built a Taoist nunnery in the Pharaoh Brook Mountain, causing his heart to suddenly feel a little sad. Regarding Yi Lei, he really did not have even the slightest feeling. It was just that Yi Lei settling down in the Pharaoh Brook Mountain alone, most likely had a lot to do with him. However, Yi Lei looked very young. How many years had passed on the Earth? Ning Qing patted his head. He clearly knew that the Earth was wrapped in the time law world, which obviously meant that the time outside was very different. Ning Qing already had a certain understanding of the time law world in the vast void. It did not mean that when the time law world wrapped around the Earth's time and the planets outside the Earth's time would form a ratio. In fact, there was no law to follow. The same time law world, the time difference formed in different periods was also different. For example, when he left the Earth and came to the Yixing mainland for more than 10 years, only 3 years had passed on the Earth. But if it was another period, 3 days or even 3 hours might have passed. The reason for this situation was because of the time law world. Yimo said that the time law world wrapped around the Earth, but in fact, Yimo's words might not necessarily be correct. In the void, there was a world that far exceeded the laws, and that was the world law world. If the time law world wrapped around the Earth, then the time difference between the Earth and the outside might be even greater. In the vast void, there was also a great Tao law world. This kind of world law world was basically impossible to encounter. Just like the time reversal spirit art, once you passed through this time law world, you would even go back in time. After Yi Mo took away the time law world wrapped around the Earth, the passage of time on the Earth would not be so different from the vast starry sky. If he came back after 1,000 years, even if the Earth had not passed 1,000 years, it would not be the same as it was now. Ning Qing decided to see Yi Lei before leaving. When Ning Qing landed on Earth, he saw the Cheng Rulan Materials Group. On the top of a building in Jiang State City, these words were very conspicuous. However, these words were a bit mottled, most likely because they had not been repaired. After he and Ning Rulan left, Dai Xian was responsible for the Qing Rulan materials. Not knowing how Dai Xian was doing, Ning Qing scanned with his spiritual consciousness but did not see Dai Xian. He gave up the idea of looking for Yi Lei immediately and went straight to Jiang State City. If Dai Xian wanted to leave Earth, he would take Dai Xian with him. Dai Xian was Rulan's best friend and had always stood by Rulan's side during her most difficult times. As soon as Ning Qing arrived at the Qing Rulan Materials Group, his spiritual consciousness spied on the topic that everyone in the company was talking about. That is, the Qing Rulan Materials Group was going to sell. Ning Qing also knew the person sitting in the Qing Rulan Materials Group's CEO's office. It was Li Shiyun, who shared the same dormitory with Ning Rulan and Dai Xian. Shiyun, why do you look so sad? Ning Cheng's figure moved slightly and appeared in Li Shiyun's office. Li Shiyun was surprised by Ning Cheng's words and immediately looked up before calling out in surprise, "Elder brother Xiao Cheng, you're back. Did Rulan come back?" She did not know where Ning Cheng and Rulan went, but she vaguely guessed that they might have gone to another planet. If it was before the insects invaded Earth, she would have doubted such a thing. But if the insects could invade Earth, then what else could they not do? What's more, the destruction of those insects, she heard that it was related to Rulan's brother Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng smiled, "Rulan did not come back, I came back to take care of something. By the way, why didn't I see Dai Xian?" Li Shiyun sighed and spoke, "A few years after you left, Dai Xian was not in the mood to do business. She put all her energy into secluded cultivation. At the beginning of last year, she finally told me that she was going to look for you and Rulan. After that, she never came back." Ning Qing suddenly frowned. With Dai Xian's qualifications, even if he gave her sufficient cultivation resources, she would at best be at the essence building realm. An essence-building realm cultivator absolutely could not leave Earth. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept out in an overwhelming manner. He could almost see everyone he knew, including Yi Hui. However, he did not find Dai Xian. Did Dai Xian really leave Earth? Otherwise, with his spiritual consciousness, he would have already covered countless Earths. By the way, why do you want to sell the company? Ning Qing temporarily put down the matter of Dai Xian. Li Shiyun quickly spoke, "With the insects gone, the insect materials are getting more and more difficult to make. Elder brother Yin, because of his obsession with martial arts, has no way to stay in the company. I don't think it's too late to sell the company. If we wait any longer, I estimate that the company will go bankrupt." Li Shiyun knew that Ning Cheng would not take over the company, so she simply did not say anything about it. Ning Cheng nodded, "Shiyun, don't sell the company. You can write off the Qing Rulan company, and then sell off everything in the company." Ah! Li Shiyun suddenly froze on hearing these words, but quickly reacted and quickly spoke up, "Okay, how should I give you the money?" Ning Cheng shook his head, "Shiyun, this money is all yours, I have no use for it." But Li Shiyun wanted to say something, but Ning Cheng stopped her, "No buts, I'm leaving. Thank you for taking care of Rulan in the past. Elder brother Xiao Cheng, will I never be able to see you and Rulan again?" After Ning Cheng's words came out, Li Shiyun suddenly had a premonition that this separation from Ning Cheng would be forever. Ning Cheng initially wanted to give a few medicinal pills to Li Shiyun, but after thinking about it, he decided against it. Li Shiyun was an ordinary person, if he gave Li Shiyun medicinal pills, it would most likely harm her. Unfortunately, Li Shiyun did not have a spiritual root. Although Ning Cheng believed that there was a way for people without spiritual roots to cultivate in the mysterious yellow heavens beyond. However, he did not say it out loud. Sometimes, the ruthless and cruel world of cultivation was not necessarily better than living a peaceful and contented life. Maybe, take care of yourself. Saying that, Ning Cheng slowly walked out. Elder brother Xiao Cheng, you also have to take care. Li Shiyun murmured from behind. She suddenly felt a little uncomfortable in her heart. Ning Cheng's sideburns had already turned a little gray. It looked like he had lived a very hard life these years. She naturally did not know that the gray on Ning Cheng's sideburns was caused by burning his essence blood and longevity during the battle with Xian Mao. He had suffered a serious injury, and although a drop of true essence of the universe allowed him to recover from his injuries and restore his cultivation, it did not completely restore his consumed longevity. Chapter 1371. You're the decorator. Li Yuning had just walked out of the fairy's shadow building when she saw Ning Qing standing in front of the fairy's shadow building. Ning Qing smiled and nodded, "Yes, I'm the decorator." When his spiritual consciousness swept towards Su Li leaving the fairy's shadow building, Ning Qing guessed that the fairy's shadow building was Su Li's company. For Su Li to name the company Fairy's Shadow Building, it also made sense. After all, Su Li knew that he had fallen from the sky, and certainly knew what he had done. As for Li Yuning, she most likely would not inquire about his origin and whereabouts. "Are you looking for Li?" Li Yuning's tone turned cold. She really couldn't figure out why Su Li would be so polite to a decorator. Now that so many years had passed, the other party had come looking for her again. She had said that she could not give these decorators any color. If she gave them a bit of color, they would open up a dye shop. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept towards Su Li and found that she had just left, but he did not want to look for Su Li. Shaking his head, he spoke, "No, I was just passing by." Saying that, Ning Cheng turned around and instantly left, leaving behind a bewildered Li Yuning. Su Li sat in a coffee shop, holding a cup of coffee, just like before in the company, once again falling into confusion. She did not know where to go from here. She had reached the peak of her career. However, she always felt that it was not what she needed. She had secretly spent countless efforts to find Ning Cheng's whereabouts, but had never found any trace of news. Ning Cheng's origin and past was also a secret within the Federation. Except for people like her who came from a big family, or people who had a relationship with Ning Cheng, only a few ordinary people knew about Ning Cheng's actions. Moreover, she had seen Ning Cheng fall from the sky with her own eyes. Even if it was just an illusion, Ning Cheng had given her a pill, which allowed her to maintain her appearance for so many years, without even suffering from minor illnesses. This was more convincing than anything else. At this time, her cell phone suddenly rang. Su Li glanced at the caller ID inside. Li Yuning was not her best friend, but Li Yuning took the initiative to find her after the divorce, so she simply let Li Yuning work in the company. Li Yuning's schemes were too heavy, and she valued profit too much, which made her somewhat disgusted. In the company, she was clear about some of the things that Li Yuning had secretly done, but she was too lazy to care about them. Money was really nothing to her. No matter what, Li Yuning was still helping her, so she still picked up the phone. Li Yuning's prophetic tone came through the phone, "Li Yi, I'm not wrong, right? Do you still remember the decorator we met when we were studying in Haidu? The renovation worker came to look for you again. He looked a little old and seemed to be living a hard life. I guess he came to ask for your help. Today, he was embarrassed by what I said and left. He will definitely come again next time. Pa-da." Su Li's phone suddenly fell on the table, knocking over the coffee on the table, but she did not even notice it. In just less than 2 seconds, Su Li excitedly grabbed the mobile phone with the coffee juice on it. Completely not caring about the coffee on her face, she directly put the phone to her ear and eagerly asked, "Yuning, where is Ning Cheng? You must stop him for me. I'll go back to the company immediately." At the entrance of the fairy shadow group, Li Yuning stared blankly at the phone that had been hung up. She really could not understand why Su Li cared so much about the renovation worker. Then she remembered that the renovation worker had already left. She hurriedly chased after him, but could no longer see his shadow. Feral Brook Mountain, Ning Cheng had come here once when he was looking for the wood origin bead. If he had not seen Yi Lei here, perhaps he would never have set foot in the Feral Brook Mountain again. "Yi Lei, are you okay?" Ning Cheng walked out of the Dao nunnery, but did not sweep out with his spiritual consciousness. Instead, he stood at the door and called out. However, for a long time, he did not hear Yilei's answer, causing him to feel puzzled in his heart. Did Yilei go out? As his spiritual consciousness swept in, Ning Qing immediately saw Yilei lying unconscious on the bed with a trace of blood on the corner of her mouth. Feeling some messy true essence aura rampaging through her meridians, Ning Qing immediately came to a realization. Yilei cultivated the cultivation method that he had given her, and because of it, she had gone overboard. Seeing that Yilei's bed was made of bluestone, Ning Qing understood that this was not the first time Yilei had encountered such a thing. Previously, he had only casually swept out with his spiritual consciousness, coupled with the fact that Yilei was a woman, it was not easy for him to observe carefully. As such, he did not notice it. Ning Qing secretly shook his head and sighed. He walked towards Yilei, raised his hand and patted Yilei's body a dozen times, then took out a medicinal pill and put it into Yilei's mouth. Yilei's situation, it was estimated that no one on earth could save her. However, for him, it was not even the slightest bit difficult. He took this opportunity to not only help Yilei re-expand her meridians, but also helped Yilei open up some of the blocked meridians. In other words, when Yilei woke up, her strength would be nearly 3 or 4 times stronger than her current strength. In just a minute, Yilei's breathing gradually stabilized, and her face also turned a little rosier. Ning Cheng's face also turned a little rosier, as he hesitated for a moment, before he raised his hand and placed it between Yilei's eyebrows a few times. He had engraved some of his martial Dao cultivation experiences into Yilei's consciousness. Since Yilei wanted to cultivate martial Dao so hard, he might as well help her. Yilei did not have a master, and could only rely on herself to explore. If he did not let her understand a little more about the martial Dao cultivation methods, then perhaps she would fall into this kind of situation again next time. At the same time as Ning Qing withdrew his hand, Yilei opened her eyes. She then closed her eyes again, and muttered to herself, "Why am I dreaming? How come a day and a night have passed so quickly?" She soon felt that something was wrong. Opening her eyes again, she then sat up as fast as she could. "Big brother Ning, did you come back?" Ning Qing spoke up apologetically, "I came back. If I had not left behind a cultivation method for you to cultivate, you would not have suffered such a heavy injury. If it were not because of a special situation, I'm afraid that you would not have survived." Yilei looked at Ning Qing in a daze. After a while, she shook her head and spoke, "No, if it were not for the cultivation method that you left behind, perhaps I would have already lost the will to live. Only by cultivating every day, would I have a kind of pursuit." Ning Cheng's heart moved, and he immediately took out a dilapidated ancient book and handed it to Yilei. "Yilei, this is a martial Dao cultivation method that I obtained by chance. I took a look at it, and although it is not suitable for me to cultivate, it is of an extremely high level." Ning Cheng's words did not contain the slightest bit of boasting. He had found this dilapidated martial Dao cultivation method from the Heaven and Earth Deity's tomb mound. The Heaven and Earth Deity's tomb mound was the battlefield of the First Good Fortune War. Therefore, it would have been strange if something from the Heaven and Earth Deity's tomb mound was inferior. Because of Ning Cheng's arrival, coupled with Ning Qing removing all of Yilei's injuries, her spirit and chi had improved by a lot. She did not refuse the cultivation method. "Big brother Ning, is your planet far from Earth?" Ning Qing vaguely understood Yilei's thoughts. He hesitated for a moment before speaking, "It's very far. With our Earth's technology, I'm afraid it would take many centuries before we would have the opportunity to come into contact with that kind of planet." Yilei pursed her lips and then asked firmly, "Big brother Ning, if I cultivate this cultivation method, can I also leave Earth in the future?" Ning Qing spoke up without hesitation, "Of course you can. This cultivation method is one of the top martial Dao cultivation methods in the vast universe. If I succeed in cultivating it, not to mention leaving Earth, my future achievements might even surpass my current achievements." As for whether her future achievements would surpass his current achievements, Ning Qing did not know. However, Ning Qing knew that since she could participate in the first great war of good fortune, how could she be a weakling? Yilei carefully put away the cultivation method and spoke up firmly, Big Brother Ning, I want to cultivate this cultivation method. In the future, I can also strive to go to the vast starry sky and find my own dream. Ning Qing sighed in his heart. It was not that he did not want to take Yi Lei with him. It was just that the competition in the vast starry sky was too fierce. Even if he took away Yi Lei and helped Yi Lei develop a spiritual root, he could not take Yi Lei with him. He also couldn't bring Yi Lei with him. With Yi Lei's cultivation base, the chances of her dying were too high. Big Brother Ning, after you helped me heal my injuries, I feel like my mind has become a lot clearer. I believe I can do it. Yi Lei spoke with a firm tone. Ning Qing sighed in his heart, Yi Lei, I'll take you with me. Yi Lei shook her head, no, I want to rely on my own strength to go to the starry sky. If my qualifications are really limited, even if you take me with you, I would only be a burden. Ning Qing also knew that Yi Lei spoke the truth. He took out a ring and handed it to Yi Lei, this is for you. I thought that I would never come back, or that we would never meet again after coming back. I didn't expect that not only would I come back, but we would also meet again so soon. This ring contains cultivation resources, which you can't open right now. Once you open the ring, you will understand why I didn't help you open the ring. After saying that, Ning Qing paused for a moment before taking the initiative to speak up, Yi Lei, cultivating the martial Tao is even more difficult. If it's just a little bit worse, then don't work so hard. Sometimes, living a plain life is also a kind of happiness. Yi Lei gave an N sound, I know. In fact, I've always been advancing step by step in my own cultivation, and I have never experienced a situation of cultivation deviation. It was only to find Dai Xian that I sped up my cultivation, but the result. At this point, Yi Lei remembered something important and quickly said, Big Brother Ning, let's hurry up and save Dai Xian. Ning Qing felt surprised and asked, did you say that Dai Xian is still on Earth? Yi Lei nodded and spoke with affirmation, yes, Dai Xian came to the Wild Brooch Mountain and settled down with me to cultivate. I also cultivated her cultivation method, but it didn't help me at all. Later, I realized that she didn't have any spiritual roots. Where did Dai Xian go? Ning Qing asked eagerly. If Dai Xian was on Earth, then there was no reason why he couldn't find her. For him, his Dao Charm giant hand could crush the earth. If Dai Xian was on Earth, how could he not know? Unless Dai Xian fell. Chapter 1372. A year ago, she went to the Sky Sea Desert, and there was no news of her after that. Previously, she told me that the Sky Sea Desert was definitely related to the cultivation civilization, so she wanted to check it out. At that time, I was trying to break through a bottleneck, so I didn't go with her. After we lost contact with her, I also went to the Sky Sea Desert, but I knew that I was too weak the moment I went there. Later, I desperately cultivated, wanting to improve my strength. Yi Lei's tone was filled with self-blame. Obviously, she felt that Dai Xian's disappearance had something to do with her not being there with her. Ning Qing frowned and asked, Sky Sea Desert. What is this place? After asking this question, Ning Qing finally understood what the Sky Sea Desert was. When he swept out with his spiritual consciousness, he found several large deserts. Because he did not care about it, he did not notice that one of the deserts did not originally exist on Earth. Now that Yi Lei mentioned the Sky Sea Desert, he immediately understood. Yes, this desert didn't exist before. It was centered on a small town not far from the insect swarm, and then it spread outwards. Later, it spread all the way to the edge of Huaxia's Jing City, including the 100 Bay Point, which turned into a desert. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness once again swept out and found that the original 100 Bay Point had slowly turned into desertification. The place where he had fought with the bug swarm had now turned into a desert. This desert had almost become the largest desert on Earth. From afar, it looked like a sea of sand. No wonder it was called the Sky Sea. Yi Lei continued to explain, the center of the spread of the Heavenly Sea Desert is called Ruka Town. This was originally a small town on the border of Russia. It was considered quite prosperous, but now it has become the reason for the formation of the Heavenly Sea Desert. Many people went in to investigate, but they all disappeared. I suspect that Dai Xan also went to this town. What do you mean? Ning Cheng asked in doubt. Because the town disappears at night and reappears during the day. It was very strange. Many scientists who went in to investigate, as long as they didn't come out on the first day, they would disappear without a trace the next day, just like the night before. Now, Ruka Town is also known as Lost Town. Yi Lei's tone carried a hint of lingering fear. Clearly, she had been to this town before. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness fell onto a small town in the middle of the Sky Sea Desert. Far away from the town, there were many temporary tents. Some people were going in and out. They seemed to be scientists or explorers. What surprised Ning Cheng was that even with his powerful spiritual sense, he could still vaguely see the inside of the town. Ning Cheng immediately turned to Yi Lei and spoke, "I'll go and have a look, you should focus on your cultivation. If Dai Xin is here, I will bring her out. If you're not here, I'll be leaving. We'll meet again if fate wills it." Ning Cheng did not tell Yi Lei not to go to the lost town. Since he had already gone there to investigate, then no matter how strange this lost town was, he would make sure that these strange things disappear. With his Dao integration stage power, it would be a piece of cake for him to destroy an entire planet, let alone a small restricted area on Earth. Big brother Ning, take care of yourself. Yi Lei completely concealed her emotions, not revealing even the slightest bit. If she didn't have the chance to step into the starry sky, then she would slowly grow old here. If she had the chance to step into the starry sky, she would pursue what she wanted. There were no troops stationed in the desert outside of Lost Town, only various exploration teams. Although Ning Cheng did not know why there was no army stationed here, he could guess a few things. Because this was the border of each country, they simply let the exploration teams of each country explore here. "What are you doing?" A young man with a high-grade camera on him saw Ning Cheng empty-handed and wanted to enter Ruka Town alone. He quickly stopped him and asked, "I'm going in to have a look." Ning Cheng smiled and said. This young man was a warm-hearted person. Since he stopped him, it meant that he was worried about his safety. What made Ning Cheng feel even better was that this young man was a Chinese. The young man quickly shook his head and said, "You must not go in at this time. This town will disappear completely in an hour at most. Even if you want to go in for an investigation, you have to wait until tomorrow." Speaking of investigation, he subconsciously looked at Ning Cheng's body. Ning Cheng had neither a backpack nor a defensive weapon. Going in like this was no different from courting death. "Thank you." Ning Cheng nodded, "I just want to investigate when this town disappears. If I wait until tomorrow, then I won't be able to investigate anything." After saying that, Ning Cheng turned around and walked towards the gradually blurring town. "Wait for me." A woman in her 30s ran over. Ning Cheng looked at the woman in doubt. She was dressed in an exaggerated manner. She carried a large backpack on her back. Her boots were tied with a tri-edged thorn and a dagger. There was even a pistol at her waist. Her appearance was very ordinary. Her chest was the opposite of her ordinary appearance. It was surging. She was also a Chinese woman, and she looked like she was eager to have a go. "My thoughts are the same as yours. If you don't go in for an investigation when the town disappears, then you won't be able to investigate anything. I support your idea. I will go in with you. Elder sister Ya, do you want to enter Lost Town at this time?" The young man who stopped Ning Cheng apparently knew this woman in her 30s and quickly asked anxiously. The woman nodded, "I've been here for almost half a year. I must figure out what's going on with Lost Town. But, in the past few years, how many people have gone in at night and never come out?" The young man's tone became even more anxious. The woman smiled and spoke, "The truth always needs someone to sacrifice, doesn't it? Then I'll go in with you." The young man said helplessly. To his surprise, after he said those words, elder sister Ye did not try to persuade him. This made him feel a little discouraged. Elder sister Ya, you should at least try to persuade me. The woman spoke again, you are not a child. Since you have decided, then you should have your own thoughts. Why should I try to persuade you? Ning Qing shook his head and did not speak much. He walked in first. The woman quickly quickened her pace and came to Ning Cheng's side and said, my name is Zhenya. I used to be a reporter. Later, I stayed in the Sky Sea Desert. I feel that you are a very capable person. But why didn't you bring anything to defend yourself, nor did you bring anything? Ah! Zhenya spoke until here. She screamed and retreated behind Ning Cheng. A blond man abruptly came out from behind a mottled wall at the entrance of the town. He looked at the Ning Cheng trio and called out, hello. Ning Cheng had already seen this guy, but did not care about it. The young man on the side explained, this person is an adventure reporter from the United States. His name is Kong Li. Once, he had just come out of Lost Town, and the Lost Town gradually disappeared. Just a little bit more. By the way, my name is Lu Pin. I am a professional adventurer. Ning Cheng nodded, looked at Zhenya and asked, how did you feel that I have the ability just because I didn't bring anything with me? Zhenya smiled again, and spoke with some embarrassment, actually, I had long wanted to come in at night to have a look. It was just that I was a little afraid of being alone. Now that you came in, I just wanted to embolden myself. By the way, how should I address you? The implication was that even if the person who came in was not Ning Cheng, she would still have followed him in. Oh, my God, are you going to enter Ruoka town now? The blond man spoke out in surprise. His Chinese was also very fluent. My name is Ning Cheng. While speaking, Ning Cheng had already walked onto the main street of the town. The shops and houses on both sides of the street were mottled. Although this town had been swallowed by the desert for only a few years, but the vicissitudes of history felt as if hundreds of years had passed. I will also go in with you. Kong Li, who was still amazed a moment ago, suddenly turned around and caught up with the Ning Cheng trio. At the end of the town, there was a mottled and dilapidated church. Even if Ning Cheng stood outside the church, he could still feel a burst of yin qi. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept in, and found that there were countless remnant souls wandering inside the church. However, under Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness, these remnant souls trembled and hid in a corner of the church. You can't go inside. This church is the Lost Town's ghost hall. Whether it is day or night, as long as you enter, you will encounter problems. Even if one or two survive, they would turn into idiots. Seeing Ning Cheng wanting to enter the church, Lu Pin quickly spoke up. Even Zhenya, who had always wanted to come in, spoke up from the side, Ning Cheng, what Lu Pin said is right, this church is indeed a bit strange. After going in, I heard that there were ghostly howls coming from inside. Why don't we go to other places first and check this place out last? Ning Cheng did not speak. He had already checked the town with his spiritual consciousness, and found that there were no problems in other places. The problem lay in this church. Previously, his spiritual consciousness could not penetrate every corner of the town, and it was also because of this church. At the top of the church, there was a small world of laws floating, completely invisible to the naked eye. To be honest, Ning Cheng had never heard of such a small world of laws with such a high level. Ning Cheng felt sure that the level of this world of laws was not low. Even with his spiritual consciousness, he could not fully penetrate every corner of it in a hurry. However, at this time, Ning Cheng, standing in front of this small world of laws, had already seen it clearly. This was a world of the laws of space. With the level of this world of laws, it definitely did not belong to Earth. The reason why the Sky Sea Desert could form was because of this world of laws. This world of laws had periodic fluctuations. Every night, the space of the world of laws would connect the space of this small town with the void outside of Earth. Once one entered this town at night, it was equivalent to entering the void through the transmission array. It would be fine if one had a cultivation, but almost everyone on Earth was an ordinary person. It would be a strange thing for anyone to survive after entering the void. As for the souls in the church, some were from Earth, while some came from the void. This small world of the laws of space was very valuable. Ning Qing knew that as long as he took away this world of laws, the sky-sea desert would not spread, and the town would not disappear. But what worried Ning Cheng was that Dai Xian must have entered this world of the laws of space and ended up in the void. Another thing that worried him was that he did not know if any powerful souls had entered Earth through this place. Chapter 1373. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness quickly swept out. This time, his spiritual consciousness penetrated almost every corner of the earth. Apart from a few guys who seemed to be cultivating, Ning Cheng did not find any powerful souls. After a while, Ning Cheng retracted his spiritual consciousness. Ning Cheng was not sure if there were any souls that he did not find. If there really was a fish from the void that he could not find, then he could only say that it was just luck. "Hey, Ning Cheng, are you okay?" Zhenya saw Ning Cheng not speaking and quickly asked. Ning Cheng had just finished searching the earth. He turned to the Zhenya trio and smiled, "I'll go in and have a look. You three wait for me here." After saying that, Ning Cheng stepped into the church in a few steps. "Oh, I'll also go in and have a look." Seeing Ning Cheng enter the church, Kang Li also followed behind Ning Cheng and quickly entered the church. Zhenya originally wanted to find someone to come in. Since Ning Cheng and Kang Li walked in front of her, how could she not go in? However, when she and Kang Li reached the entrance of the church, they were blocked by an invisible force and could not take even half a step inside. "It's over, it's dark, this town is starting to turn illusory." Lu Pin took a few steps back and spoke with a panicked expression. His body was still there, but he felt as if he was about to disappear. Kang Li's expression also changed drastically. He anxiously called out, "Hurry up and follow me. I've encountered this kind of situation once. As long as we retreat quickly, we'll be fine." As soon as Ning Cheng entered the church, the Yin soul aura immediately dissipated, and some even fled the church in panic. For these Yin souls, this was completely instinctive. Ning Cheng's powerful aura made these Yin souls desperate. Even a single glance could make them disappear without a trace. Ning Cheng naturally did not care about these low-level Yin souls. He took a step and arrived at the top of the church. The top of the church was filled with the aura of the laws of space, and an invisible world of the laws of space was suspended above the church. As soon as Ning Cheng approached this world of the laws of space, a feeling of illusory space came over him. Ning Cheng knew that this was the power of void teleportation. Because he was next to this world of laws, he could feel the power of void teleportation. If he was not next to this world of laws, then once the aura of this world of the laws of space spread throughout the town, anyone could be teleported away by this space array gate. Previously, the town could not be seen because of this space law world, which caused the space law of the town to change. In fact, the town was still there. After the spatial laws changed, anything with life aura would be brought into the void by the spatial laws. Ning Cheng gave out a sigh. He felt sure that Dai Xian had been swept away by this kind of space. As the power of laws within the spatial teleportation grew stronger and stronger, Ning Cheng didn't rush to take away this spatial law world. He walked to the edge of the teleportation law power and kept putting up some restrictions and array flags. Catcha, a crack appeared in the void in front of Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng knew that this crack could not be seen by others, but it was a crack in the void that led outside of Earth. After Ning Cheng arranged the last array flag, he stepped into the void within the law world. Outside the church, Lu Pin forcefully pulled Zhenya away from the town, while Kang Li had already run more than 10 meters away. "Hey, the town seems to have lit up again." Zhenya's words interrupted Lu Pin's action and made Kang Li stop running. The town, which had gradually become blurry in their perception, once again became clear. The whole town seemed to be completely different from before. "Ah, I wonder what happened to that Ning Cheng." Zhenya suddenly remembered that Ning Cheng had entered the church first and quickly rushed inside again. She rushed to the door of the church and stopped again, this time, there doesn't seem to be that invisible thing blocking us. He's gone. Lu Pin also carefully came to the door of the church. The church was actually not that big, and standing at the door with a searchlight, one could clearly see the things inside the church. Your companion is indeed missing. Kong Li also turned his head and nodded in agreement from behind. The three of them turned silent. Although the three of them were safe, Ning Cheng, who helped them explore the way, had disappeared. What made Kong Li and Zheng Ye even more puzzled was that even after they went out in the middle of the night, they did not find any problems. The town neither disappeared, nor did it hide. Of course, they did not find anything. The news that the lost town was no longer lost soon spread out, and people from all over the world came to watch. The last three to become famous were Kong Li, Zheng Ye, and Lu Pin. The story of Ning Cheng entering the lost town, and then going missing after entering the church, was written by the three of them. The moment the power of the void teleportation disappeared, Ning Cheng raised his hand and pulled the law of space suspended above Ruoka town. Ning Cheng directly pulled the law of space world from the void, sealed it, and threw it into the mysterious yellow bead. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept around and found that this was a completely unfamiliar void. What a pity. Ning Cheng sighed in his heart. His strength was still too low. If he had enough strength, he would not have taken away the law of space world through the teleportation. He would have first used this law of space world to teleport here, and after observing it, he would then use this law of space world to teleport back. With his Tao perfection cultivation, there was no way to use this uncorrected law of space world to teleport back. In fact, he still had one more thing to do when he returned to Earth. But because he was worried about Dai Xian, he followed this law of space world to this void. The other thing he wanted to do when he returned to Earth was to search for the legend of the East Emperor Bell. On Earth, the East Emperor Bell had always been regarded as the Bell of Chaos. There was a legend of the Eastern Emperor Bell on Earth, which meant that this thing was very likely to have come from Earth. It was also a real existence. The Eastern Emperor Bell was ranked first among the 10 legendary artifacts on Earth. Of course, this divine artifact should be a divine artifact that surpassed the divine artifact refined by a weapon-refining Grand Master. In the Legends of Earth, the top 10 divine artifacts were the Bell of the East Emperor, the Xianyuan Sword, the Pangu Axe, the Haotian Pagoda, the Kongtong Seal, the Demon Refining Gourd, the Shinong Cauldron, the Fushi Zither, the Nuwa Stone, and the Kunlun Mirror. It was rumored that the Eastern Emperor Bell was the gate to the heavenly realm, and it was even more powerful than the Pangu Axe that split the heavens and earth. Now that he had the whereabouts of the Chaos Bell, he naturally wanted to know if the East Emperor Bell and the Chaos Bell were the same. At the same time, he also wanted to know if the ancient legends on Earth were true. After all, this was just a casual investigation. Faced with Dai Xian's whereabouts, Ning Cheng naturally had to make a choice. Fortunately, he also obtained a 5-headed cauldron. Heavenly Emperor Shinong had 3 cauldrons. The first cauldron, the Shinong Cauldron, was ranked among the 10 legendary artifacts on Earth. Although his 5-headed cauldron was not as good as the Shinong Cauldron, it was still the second cauldron of Heavenly Emperor Shinong. Naturally, it would not be too bad. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept out and soon found that this void was relatively stable. Apart from the occasional meteorite passing by, most of the time, it seemed very calm. Since it was related to Dai Xian's life, Ning Cheng did not dare to act casually. Dai Xian was also a cultivator. Since the space in this place was stable, maybe Dai Xian could survive. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness searched almost every inch of this space. Just when Ning Cheng thought that there were no void cracks or void maelstrom in this place, the spiritual consciousness he released suddenly collapsed, followed by a vast aura sweeping away his spiritual consciousness. A powerful void vortex sucked in, forcing Ning Cheng to retreat in a hurry. In just a few breaths, the force that made his spiritual consciousness collapse into the void vortex disappeared without a trace. The surroundings regained its calm once again, making people wonder if what happened just now was real. Ning Cheng's heart sank. He knew that what happened just now was real. Not only was it real, but that kind of strong void tearing wasn't something that Dai Xian could block. If Dai Xian came here and encountered such a sudden void crack collapse, coupled with the power of the void vortex after the collapse, Dai Xian would have met with a disaster. Ning Qing stayed in place and didn't move. His spiritual consciousness continued to fall on the place where the void collapse vortex had appeared. About 10 hours later, the void collapse appeared once again in the place where the void collapse had appeared. This time, Ning Qing didn't hesitate and rushed in. He guessed that Dai Xian most likely fell into this periodic collapse of the void. Otherwise, with Dai Xian's strength, even if she left this place for a year, she would still be within the range of his spiritual consciousness. Ning Qing had just rushed into the area where the void had collapsed when a vast and surging force wrapped around him. At this moment, even if Ning Qing had the strength of Tao perfection, he couldn't escape this vast force. Since stepping into the starry sky, Ning Qing didn't know how many dangers he had encountered. He had also encountered this kind of void collapse that he couldn't escape from. At most, he could escape into the mysterious yellow bead. However, although the void collapse here was extremely powerful, Ning Qing could still barely resist it. Feeling the powerful void collapse force, Ning Qing didn't think about using his spiritual consciousness to find Dai Xian by chance. If Dai Xian really fell into this place, no matter how lucky she was, she wouldn't have any chance of survival. Ning Qing also didn't plan to go back from this place. Anyway, he had already lost his way in the void. If he wanted to go back, he would have to constantly tear the void and then find a familiar position in the void. But in this place, although Ning Qing felt extremely uncomfortable under the constant collapse of the void, he could also feel a vague Tao charm aura from it. This void collapse was somewhat similar to the laws of space, but it was more mysterious than the laws of space. Ning Qing quickly immersed himself in it. He even grabbed the good fortune divine spear and constantly felt the Tao charm aura in this collapsing space. For Ning Qing, the good fortune divine spear would be his main offensive weapon in the future. However, apart from the traceless spear pattern, he didn't have any other offensive spirit abilities that he could use with the good fortune divine spear. Although he could use other spirit abilities through the good fortune divine spear, he couldn't bring out the ultimate power of the good fortune divine spear. In this place, Ning Qing vaguely grasped a new spirit ability, that is, the collapse of space. Chapter 1374. If he could use his creation divine spear to combine the void collapse with the traceless spear pattern divine power, how terrifying a great divine power would it be? Previously, his traceless spear pattern could only ignore space and use the spear intent to restrain the opponent's killing aura, forming a spear pattern to attack or defend. If he could combine the traceless spear pattern with the space collapse just now, it would be equivalent to forming a spear Tao spatial divine power that was more powerful than spatial dislocation. It was as if the spear patterns immediately formed layers of space collapses in the form of the spear patterns. Each layer had a different aura of spatial law. If one could not block this divine power, the opponent would be directly torn into countless pieces by the spear pattern-shaped space collapses. This divine power seemed very big, but in fact, it was extremely difficult to realize. Not only did it require an understanding of the heaven-earth law and a certain degree of control, but it also required the support of a strong cultivation level. To be honest, with Ning Cheng's Tao integration strength, it was difficult for him to cultivate this divine power, let alone create it. The heaven-earth formless was not omnipotent. Even the creation cultivation technique was limited by one's cultivation level and comprehension ability. Similarly, the higher the level of divine power or cultivation technique created by the creation cultivation technique, the smaller the effect would be. It was just like how the creation cultivation technique could not create a cultivation technique on the same level as the creation cultivation technique. Even if it could be created, it was not entirely the ability of the creation cultivation technique. More importantly, it was the ability of the creator. After knowing how powerful Xing Shi was, Ning Qing fell into an obsession. He had to catch up with this woman in terms of strength. At least, he would not need to continue to escape after facing this woman. Because of this, he hurriedly left the beyond of heaven and earth as soon as the battle ended in heaven's beyond. In fact, Ning Qing knew that he was not the only one who thought this way. The sacred Tao sect master, Ning Qing, also had the same thoughts. Otherwise, the sacred Tao sect master would not have abandoned the heavens beyond realm division competition to seek the way to the third step of Tao validation. With the advent of the Second Creation War, everyone was trying their best to improve their cultivation level. Cultivation knew no time, let alone deriving divine powers. It was endless and there was no concept of time. Ning Qing, from the initial obsession, slowly gave up all of his thoughts and focused wholeheartedly on deducing the cultivation method. From the time the traceless spear pattern gradually formed cracks in the void, to the point where the spear pattern's cracks grew more and more layered, to the point where the cracks formed a kind of void collapse, Ning Qing had no idea how much time had passed. His entire person was immersed in this endless divine ability deduction. In the collapsed void where he was, there was not a single person's shadow. Even he himself had completely forgotten about anything other than the derivation ability. Outside the cave under the Grand Essence Demon Vein's immortal Loop Island, Ao Wu stood respectfully in front of a giant suspended book. A figure slowly appeared on the giant book. Compared to before, this figure was even more solid. Replying to Tao Lord, after Ning Qing left, he never appeared again. I asked Han Qianwei about it. Nearly 10,000 years ago, Ning Qing came back once. It was just that he came back in a hurry and then left again. After that, there was no more news. Because Grand Essence Mountain has several Tao integration experts, Han Qianwei couldn't enter Grand Essence Mountain to ask. Tao Lord Ao Wu replied carefully. The figure on the giant book exuded a powerful aura. After a while, it said, "Go to the Grand Essence Tao Court first and take away the Grand Essence Tao Court. If Ning Qing hides somewhere in seclusion, he will definitely come out. If Ning Qing doesn't come out, then I will forcibly merge with the Grand Essence Tao Court again. I can't wait any longer. If I wait any longer, someone might come looking for me." The figure on the giant book was obviously Earth Tao Lord Shinyun, who had once merged with the Grand Essence Tao Court. If Ning Qing comes out, if he really comes out, then I will take away the things he prepared, repair the Grand Essence realm, and then merge the realms. I couldn't do it back then, but now I can barely do it. I always have a hunch that the second gate of good fortune is about to open. If I don't speed up, I'm afraid I won't have a chance. The great Tao Lord interrupted Tao Lord Ao Wu's words with an unquestionable tone. I'm afraid I'm not Chu Manha's opponent, Tao Lord Ao Wu said with some worry. Don't worry, just do it. That Han Qian hasn't helped you yet. If the other party is too strong, I will take action. The great Tao Lord said without hesitation. Ao Wu nodded, this disciple will go now. She knew that the great Tao Lord could take action. In the Grand Essence realm, no one could pose a threat to the great Tao Lord. The Grand Essence realm's Grand Essence Mountain had long since changed its name to the Mysterious Yellow Sect. The Mysterious Yellow Sect's sect master was Ning Qing. Since the establishment of the Mysterious Yellow Sect in the Grand Essence Mountain, none of the new disciples of the Mysterious Yellow Sect had seen Sect Master Ning. The main peak of the Grand Essence Mountain had also been changed to the Mysterious Yellow Peak, where the sect's main hall was located. At this time, the sect's main hall was filled with people. All the people who could sit in the sect's main hall were the core members of the Mysterious Yellow Sect or people close to Ning Qing. However, the sect master's seat was empty. Sitting next to the sect master's seat was a stunning woman, but she had a hint of worry in her eyes. Big sister Luofei, Big brother Ning should be fine. He mentioned that he had something to do, and it would take a long time. A purple-robed woman spoke. The big sister Luofei she mentioned was Ji Luofei, who sat next to the sect master's seat. This purple-robed woman was Luo Zian. When Ning Qing returned to Earth, he passed through the 4 grand starry skies and left many cultivation resources for Luo Zian. At this time, Luo Zian had already reached the full circle eternal realm and was only one step away from Tao sculpting. Ji Luofei was at the late stage Tao birth realm and only one step away from Tao transformation. After listening to Luo Zian's words, she sighed and didn't speak. She knew Ning Qing. Even if Ning Cheng was outside, he would come back from time to time. But now, nearly 10,000 years had passed, and there was no news from Ning Cheng. She couldn't help but feel anxious. Big sister Luofei, I want to go to Earth. Ning Rulan, who sat next to Ji Luofei, spoke up. Her cultivation was slightly lower than Ji Luofei's, at Dao Sculpting Realm. Ji Luofei shook her head, our cultivations are still too weak. With our current strength, it would be difficult for us to go to Earth. I'm sure that he wouldn't stay on Earth for so many years. Rulan, you don't have to worry. I have a hunch that your brother is fine. He might be trapped somewhere. Luofei, court pillar Li Feng is here. Lu Fanglin, who had completely restored her original appearance, walked up to Ji Luofei and whispered. Lu Fanglin cultivated in seclusion in Grand Su Mountain. Not only did she recover her cultivation, but she also reached the second step of the primordial Dao realm. Ji Luofei heard Lu Fanglin's words and quickly stood up, let's go welcome court pillar Li. Ji Luofei knew about Li Feng's help to Ning Cheng. Moreover, she also knew that Ning Cheng respected Li Feng a lot. Now that Li Feng personally came to Grand Essence Mountain, how could she not greet him? Li Feng waited in front of Grand Essence Mountain's defensive array. Seeing Ji Luofei come over, he quickly stepped forward and said, Fairy Ji, is there any news from Dao Lord Ning? Senior Li, did something happen? Ji Luofei asked carefully. She knew that Li Feng rarely came to Grand Essence Mountain unless there was something special. But now that Li Feng came over, something must have happened to the Grand Essence Dao Court. Li Feng said with worry, nothing much happened yet. But Dao Lord Proud Dance suddenly came to the Dao Court today. She told me that the Grand Essence Demon Vane wants to take over the Grand Essence Dao Court. Ji Luofei asked in doubt, didn't we easily defeat the Grand Essence Demon Vane? Aren't they afraid of extinction? Li Feng also sighed and said, that's what I said. But before I could say anything about mobilizing the Dao Court's army, a giant hand condensed from Void Dao Charm suppressed me. At that time, I had a feeling that the giant hand condensed from Void Dao Charm could easily crush me into powder. Ji Luofei's expression changed. She knew Li Feng's strength too well. Although he hadn't stepped into Dao unification, his strength was the closest to Dao unification. Such a powerhouse couldn't stop a Dao charm handprint condensed from the void. Didn't this mean that the powerhouse who condensed this void handprint had already surpassed Dao unification? Is this person a third-step powerhouse? But Grand Essence's laws aren't complete. How could a third-step powerhouse appear? Ji Luofei quickly calmed down. Li Feng said with certainty, this person must be a third-step powerhouse. Although I don't know how strong a third-step powerhouse is, this person's strength shouldn't be just at the early stage of creation realm. Ji Luofei's heart felt even heavier. At this time, she already knew that the creation realm was a sign of stepping into the third step. If a third-step powerhouse came here, even if the Dao Court gathered all its forces, they wouldn't be able to deal with it. Senior Li, let's go inside and talk. Ji Luofei understood that this matter couldn't be resolved with just a few words. Li Feng was just about to speak when she heard a crisp female voice. No need. We'll also use the Grand Essence Mountain. The Grand Essence Demon Vane will rebuild the Dao Court. But it won't be the Heaven Essence Sacred City, but the Grand Essence Mountain. As the voice fell, a beautiful young woman landed in front of Ji Luofei. Before this, even Li Feng hadn't noticed it. Ji Luofei's expression turned cold. This woman actually wanted to occupy her home. Are you that Dao Lord Proud Dance? Ji Luofei asked with a calm tone. The beautiful young woman showed a slight smile, yes, I'm Proud Dance. But you're not bad. You found a good man and even had the opportunity to talk to me directly. No one can make me leave the mysterious yellow sect except for my husband. You don't have the qualifications. Ji Luofei's tone wasn't heavy, but it carried an unquestionable affirmation. Haha, then let's see if I have the qualifications. As Dao Lord Proud Dance spoke, the Dao Charm handprint condensed from the Dao Charm reached towards the mysterious yellow sect protecting Grand Array. You indeed don't have the qualifications. Chu Manha's voice came over. At the same time, a huge fist condensed from the depths of the mysterious yellow sect and blasted towards Tao Lord Proud Dance. Chapter 1375. The Tao runes exploded, and the powerful aura forced Li Feng to retreat. Ji Luofei and the others, who had lower cultivation, had to retreat. Several ravines appeared in front of the sect protecting array, which caused the mysterious yellow sect protecting grand array to shake violently. Tao Lord Proud Dance and Chu Manha stood on both sides of the ravines, both with solemn expressions. Chu Manha felt a little worried. Apart from her, the old man and Ao Ken were also Tao integration experts. Now that neither of them were present, when she had exchanged blows with Tao Lord Proud Dance just now, she could sense that Tao Lord Proud Dance was much more powerful than before. If the two of them fought, the final result would be unpredictable. Moreover, with Chu Manha's wisdom, how could she not guess that Tao Lord Proud Dance dared to come here and even dared to say that she would take over the Grand Essence Tao Court? Most people knew about the strength of the Grand Essence Tao Court, but she didn't know about their confidence. Chu Manha, I'll give you 1 day to leave Grand Essence Mountain. Otherwise, don't blame my Grand Essence Demon Meridian for becoming stronger, Tao Lord Proud Dance said coldly. Chu Manha's face sank, but before she could speak, she heard a voice from the void. No need for 1 day. Get out of Grand Essence Mountain and the Grand Essence Realm now. Otherwise, die. Following this sentence, a powerful Tao rune blasted down. With just one sentence, the majestic aura suppressed Chu Manha. Chu Manha's expression changed. She wasn't an ignorant Tao integration sacred emperor. Although the other party hadn't made a move, she already knew that the other party's strength was no less than Great Emperor Perpetual Moon's. Great Emperor Perpetual Moon was a true third-step expert, and the other party's strength was no less than Great Emperor Perpetual Moon's. That meant that he could easily crush her. Senior, Grand Essence Mountain has an owner. Everyone knows that it belongs to the mysterious yellow sect. If you don't get out, then die. An angry roar interrupted Chu Manha's words. Then, a huge handprint condensed from Tao runes descended out of thin air and crushed towards Chu Manha. Chu Manha stared blankly at the huge Tao rune handprint, her heart filled with sorrow. She was at the Tao integration realm, yet she was bound by the space law and couldn't escape. Shen Yun, long time no see. Your temper is getting worse. A sarcastic voice emerged. At the same time, a handprint with the same Tao charm emerged from the depths of the Grand Su Mountains. It easily crushed the huge handprint that was rushing towards Chu Manha into nothingness. Chu Manha looked at the Tao charm giant handprint that had yet to dissipate. Only then did she remember that there was such a person in the Grand Su Mountain. When Ningqing returned to the Grand Essence Mountain for the last time, he brought a person with him and said that if there was anything he couldn't solve, he could come to him for help. However, he did not expect that the person who stayed in Grand Su Mountain to cultivate would be so powerful. This kind of strength was definitely a third-step expert. Kong Zai. The voice in the void was shocked beyond belief. Kong Zai didn't show himself. Instead, he said lazily, "That's right, it's me, Kong Zai. I knew that you were hiding in Taisu, but I didn't tell Ningqing. However, you are not generous enough to take the initiative to attack Ning City's Taisu Mountain and Taisu Tao Court. What disappoints me is that your current strength is even inferior to mine, only slightly stronger than that Zhu Qinyi." Kong Zai, what do you mean? The Grand Essence realm is mine. Can't I take back the realm that belongs to me? Besides, the Grand Essence Mountain and the Taisu Tao Court belong to the Grand Essence realm. When did they become Ning Cheng's private property? Shen Yun's tone turned a little sour. Kong Zai's voice in the void laughed. Shen Yun, you can only deceive others with your words, but don't say it in front of me, Kong Zai. You and I both know who the 5 great realms belong to. In ancient times, the 5 great realms existed in the vast universe and had nothing to do with you and me. I can only say that you and I once used the 5 great realms to merge our realms. Shen Yun's cold snort came from the void. Kong Zai, who doesn't know how to say beautiful words? Do you think that the great ultimate realm is no longer yours? Don't you even want to go back and merge with the great ultimate realm? Kong Zai's laughter became even more hearty. Shin Yun, you're right. My strength has long been restored to the extent that I can merge realms. Even if the great ultimate realm is not perfect, I can slowly improve it after merging the realms. However, I never went to the great ultimate realm again because I no longer think that the great ultimate realm belongs to me, Kong Zai. There are many living beings in a realm, so this realm should belong to all of them. Unless, this domain originally belonged to you, and these living beings were also brought in by you. Haha. Shin Yun seemed to have heard the funniest thing in the world. Kong Zai, don't deceive yourself anymore. I don't believe that you won't go back to the great ultimate realm. Kong Zai's tone calmed down as he said word by word, you can see whether I will merge with the great ultimate realm again. Shin Yun, on account of our many years of friendship, I'll give you another piece of advice. Give up merging with the great simplicity realm so that you can go further. Otherwise, when the second creation war comes, you will still be a nobody. That's if Ning Qing doesn't come back. Shin Yun did not take Kong Zai's words seriously at all. Merging with a top-notch realm like the great simplicity realm was the only way to become a top-notch expert. Unless one had a treasure of fortune and merged with it in the same realm. However, Shin Yun also knew that this would be very difficult. Kong Zai, regardless of whether you want the great ultimate realm or not, the great simplicity realm belongs to me, Shin Yun. I hope you won't interfere in the great simplicity realm's affairs. I'll handle it myself. Shin Yun knew that Kong Zai was stronger than him, but he also understood Kong Zai's nature. He should not forcibly occupy the great simplicity realm. Kong Zai sighed. Shin Yun, I'm stopping you for your own good. If I don't stop you today, I'm afraid that your soul will disappear in the future and you will disappear in the universe. Shin Yun did not even bother to answer this time. He was sure that Kong Zai was deliberately threatening him. Kong Zai, who did not care about Shin Yun's attitude, added, how is your strength compared to mine? Shin Yun's sullen voice came from the void. My current strength is indeed not as good as yours because my physical body was destroyed and my soul was damaged. That's why I can't recover as fast as you. Kong Zai, you should also ask yourself if I'm not your match if our strength recovers completely. Even if I'm not your match now, you can't do anything to me. For the sake of our past friendship, please step aside and don't interfere in the great simplicity realm's affairs. Kong Zai spoke up speechlessly. You also know that I'm slightly stronger than you right now. But let me tell you, I'm far from being Ning Cheng's opponent. Maybe for Ning Cheng, my spirit techniques are not even worth mentioning. As for being far from being Ning Cheng's opponent, it was something Kong Zai estimated. When Ning Cheng had just left the great simplicity realm, he should have been stronger than Ning Cheng. But he also knew that Ning Cheng had only cultivated for a short period of time. Now that so many years had passed, Ning Cheng's strength must have reached an unimaginable level. Moreover, his strength wasn't much stronger than it was back then. What? Shin Yun exclaimed in shock. How was this possible? He had also felt Kong Zai's strength just now. Even when he was at his peak, he couldn't say that Kong Zai's current strength was not worth mentioning. Did you deceive me? Shin Yun quickly reacted and spoke with a gloomy tone. Kong Zai sneered. Shin Yun, what do you have to deceive me? Your territory is nothing to me. With your strength, I can still easily suppress you. Deceive you? You think too highly of yourself. To tell you the truth, before Ning Cheng left the great simplicity realm, he easily defeated Xian Mao. Don't tell me you're not familiar with Xian Mao. He's the guy who cultivates a strength cultivation method. In addition, Ning Cheng also fought against Xing Shi, who possesses the good fortune Azure Lotus. By the way, Xing Shi's strength has already reached the third step. Shin Yun, do you think you have the confidence or strength to compete with others? Shin Yun sucked in a breath of cold air and didn't say anything. If Ning Cheng could defeat Xian Mao, or even fight against a third-step good fortune treasure owner, then he, Shen Yun, would definitely be nothing in front of Ning Cheng. At this time, he didn't dare to doubt Kong Zai's words. Ning Cheng's strength had indeed soared rapidly in the Great Simplicity realm, and he could indeed fight against enemies on a higher level. Seeing that Shen Yun didn't say anything, Kong Zai once again spoke up lazily. Shen Yun, I'll remind you one last time. Leave the Great Simplicity realm as soon as possible. When Ning Cheng comes back, I'm afraid you won't be able to leave even if you want to. I know Ning Cheng's temper. If someone dares to close the Great Simplicity realm, he will probably destroy that person's soul completely. Shen Yun gave a cold snort. I, Shen Yun, am not one to be threatened. Kong Zai said faintly, you know very well whether I like to threaten people or not. I'm just telling you a fact. Back then, 14 third-step experts besieged Ning Cheng and another Dao Integration Holy Emperor. In the end, the two of them killed 8 or 9 of them, and the remaining few begged for mercy to save their lives. By the way, among the 14 third-step experts, there were also 4 realm integration experts. On the Immortal Ring Island hundreds of millions of miles away from the Great Simplicity Mountain, Shen Yun's solidified body trembled slightly when he heard this. A sense of fear rose from the bottom of his heart for no reason. Although he firmly believed that he wouldn't be threatened by Kong Zai still threatened him. Kong Zai generally wouldn't lie about such things. Since Kong Zai said that Ning Cheng and a Dao Integration Holy Emperor had to deal with 14 third-step experts, then it was true. He naturally ignored the Dao Integration Holy Emperor who teamed up with Ning Cheng. Kong Zai's words meant that Ning Cheng had to deal with 14 third-step experts by himself and protect a Dao Integration Holy Emperor. This kind of strength was absolutely terrifying. Even if the 14 third-step experts were fake third-step experts, it was still extremely shocking. He didn't know that the Dao Integration Holy Emperor Kong Zai was talking about was Yi Mo, someone stronger than Ning Cheng. Shen Yun fell completely silent and didn't say anything. Dao Lord Ao Wu's face changed slightly and she carefully retreated. She didn't expect Great Simplicity Mountain to have someone stronger than a great Dao Lord. If she knew, she wouldn't have come here in such a hurry. What? You destroyed our Great Simplicity Mountain's defense formation and you want to leave? Chu Manha saw Dao Lord Ao Wu's actions and said sarcastically. Chapter 1376. What do you want? Dao Lord Proud Dance said with a gloomy face. If what Kong Zai said was true, then this Grand Dao Lord would never be able to rise again. She had never met Ning Cheng before, but she had heard too much about the way Ning Cheng did things. Just as Kong Zai said, if Ning Cheng was truly that powerful, then Grand Dao Lords would never be able to merge with their realms. Wait. Ning Rulan walked over and stared at Dao Lord Proud Dance for a while before suddenly asking, is there anyone in Dao Lord's family who looks similar to Dao Lord? Ning Rulan immediately thought of Ning Ruoqing when she saw Dao Lord Proud Dance. However, she didn't have a chance to speak. In fact, Ji Luofei also felt that Dao Lord Proud Dance and Ning Ruoqing looked similar. The only difference was that Dao Lord Proud Dance had an arrogant attitude, which was completely different from Ning Ruoqing. Dao Lord Proud Dance frowned, this is my personal matter. What does it have to do with you? Ning Rulan cupped her fists, Senior Proud Dance, I know a woman who looks like Senior, both in appearance and manner. Of course, if you have nothing to do with her, then please talk to Senior Chu. After saying that, Ning Rulan retreated to Ji Luofei's side. Like Ji Luofei, she didn't ask anymore. Regardless of whether this person had a relationship with Ning Ruoqing or not, they didn't want to make friends with her. What? Dao Lord Proud Dance exclaimed. Her figure flashed and she raised her hand to grab Ning Rulan. Chu Manha snorted in disdain. With a wave of her hand, Dao Lord Proud Dance flew away. Dao Lord Proud Dance's strength wasn't any weaker than Chu Manha. Moreover, under the guidance of Dao Lord Earth, her strength even improved. With Dao Lord Proud Dance's current strength, Chu Manha naturally couldn't send her flying. It was mainly because Tao Lord Proud Dance lost her sense of propriety after hearing Ning Ruolan's words. Even though Tao Lord Proud Dance had been sent flying by Chu Manhe, she did not have the slightest intention of blaming Chu Manhe. She still flashed over and asked anxiously, "Junior sister, did you just say that there was a woman who looked very similar to me?" At this moment, not only Ning Ruolan, but even Chu Manhe and the others could tell that the woman Ning Ruolan mentioned had a relationship with Proud Dance. "Ruoqing is here," Luofei whispered. As expected, Ning Ruoqing charged over with a magic treasure in her hand. Ning Ruoqing had been in cultivation retreat all these years. Unfortunately, even Ji Luofei had reached the Dao birth realm, while Ning Ruoqing was still lingering in the Dao birth realm. Ning Cheng had gone out for nearly 10,000 years. Otherwise, Ning Cheng would have already helped Ning Ruoqing, who had been in seclusion, to check on her. "Who dares touch my big brother's place?" Ning Ruoqing shouted before she even arrived. After so many years, even though she still did not know where she came from, her mind gradually became clear. Dao Lord Proud Dance stared at the murderous Ning Ruoqing, tears streaming down her face. She had never thought that she would see again one day. All of a sudden, the sense of loss and uncertainty disappeared. Boom boom boom. In an empty space, an originally complete space suddenly collapsed layer by layer. Then, it extended out endlessly, forming layers of collapse. The spear Dao's killing intent that filled this part of the void also spread out along with the collapsing void, complementing and merging with the layers of collapsing space. In the face of this boundless collapsing void and tearing killing intent, anyone within it could only choose to avoid it or die. This killing intent didn't even feel like a Dao charm spirit technique. Instead, it felt like the might of heaven and earth in the vast void. This wasn't a heaven-falling earth-rending technique, but it was much stronger than an ordinary heaven-falling earth-rending technique. Ning Cheng put away his long spear and stood in the void. He quietly looked at the collapsing void in front of him with a calm heart. He didn't know how long he had deduced for this spear move. However, he hadn't specifically cultivated it, and his cultivation had already reached the middle stage Dao integration realm. Ning Cheng knew that a lot of time had passed. Whoosh! The void that Ning Cheng's spear blasted apart disappeared at this moment. Perhaps it didn't look any different to the naked eye, but Ning Cheng knew that a part of the void had indeed disappeared. This spear move is called the Traceless Sky Collapse. Ning Cheng muttered to himself. This was the divine power of his traceless spear and the collapse of the void. Then, he raised his hand and the creation divine spear once again landed on his back. Although he was at the middle stage Dao integration realm, coupled with the traceless sky collapse, he still couldn't deal with Xing Shi. However, it wouldn't be that easy for Xing Shi to kill him either. Ning Cheng understood that after so many years, his strength had increased a lot. Xing Shi's strength had probably also increased a lot. His cultivation level had improved very little. From the early stage Dao integration realm to the middle stage Dao integration realm, most of it was the foundation he had laid in the past. All these years, he had spent purely on this traceless sky collapse divine power. Standing in the void, Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness passed through layers of realms but still couldn't find a specific location. In his spiritual consciousness, apart from the vast void, there was only the vast void. Ning Cheng simply started to tear the void continuously, crossing one void after another. He believed that since the void around heavens beyond was so vast, he would eventually be able to find a familiar location. Another 6 months passed and Ning Cheng even felt a little numb. The vastness of the void made him feel increasingly insignificant. Not only did he not find a familiar plane in half a year, but he also felt that he had gone further and further away. On this day, when Ning Cheng tore through another void interface, an extremely powerful spatial fluctuation emerged from it. The moment he sensed this fluctuation, Ning Cheng stopped in his tracks. After all, he was a middle-stage Dao integration expert. As soon as this fluctuation appeared, Ning Cheng knew that the two people fighting were far stronger than him. Not only were they stronger than him, but even Xing Shi was not their match. If Xing Shi wanted to kill him now, it would be almost impossible. But if these two powerhouses wanted to kill Ning Cheng, it would be a simple task. Ning Cheng took a deep breath and didn't even dare to turn around and escape. He vaguely felt that the aura was somewhat familiar. Boom! The void collapsed once again. It was like a tall building that had its foundation blown up, and it collapsed at once. Ning Cheng was speechless. He had spent a lot of time in the void in order to deduce the traceless sky collapse divine power. However, the collision of the divine powers of the two people in front of him easily collapsed the void. Although this collapse was different from his layers of tearing and collapsing, it was also related to the nomological divine power. The Tao runes colliding and exploding in the void swept towards Ning Cheng, who kept retreating. When Ning Cheng caught hold of the two powerful Tao charm auras, Ning Cheng instantly felt them. He was faintly familiar with these two Tao rune auras. One of the Tao runes was the giant hand that had wanted to grab the indestructible axe when it had condensed. The other Tao rune aura was the axe intent aura of the indestructible axe. Ning Cheng shuddered. The indestructible axe really had a master, and it was such a powerful guy. Suddenly, he felt an extreme sense of urgency. If the indestructible axe had a master, would the original owner of the mysterious yellow bead come to find him, take away the mysterious yellow bead, and refine him into the mysterious yellow bead's creation spirit? Xing Shi and Yi Mo probably felt this sense of urgency, which was why they couldn't wait to go to the Chaos Realm. He was only at the middle stage Tao integration now. What should he do? With Yi Mo's ability, he would definitely be a third-step expert after coming out of the Chaos Realm. Once he succeeded in creating the Chaos Realm, it would be impossible for the original owner of the Golden Page World to snatch the Golden Page World from him and refine him into the creation spirit. Thinking of this, Ning Cheng realized that out of the three people who had the creation treasure, he was the most miserable one. He had the weakest cultivation level and faced the greatest danger. We meet again. An old voice appeared in Ning Cheng's ears, and a skinny old man landed in front of him. This old man looked like he had fused with the entire universe. There was not the slightest bit of awkwardness. Ning Cheng was shocked to find that he couldn't see through the old man's strength. Ning Cheng greets Senior. Ning Cheng bowed. He even had a feeling that this old man was a kind of Tao, and the Tao was this old man. Your strength has made good progress. It hasn't been long, but you're already at the mid-stage of Tao integration. The old man nodded. Then, his gaze fell on the creation divine spear on Ning Cheng's back. Ning Cheng's heart tightened. He didn't dare to neglect and said respectfully again, Junior was lucky and encountered some opportunities. The old man smiled and moved his gaze away from Ning Cheng's creation divine spear. You're indeed lucky. You seem to be lost. Ning Cheng quickly said, yes, Junior was indeed careless and lost my way in the vast void. I was looking for someone to ask, but I didn't expect to meet Senior. The old man raised his hand and threw a gray ball to Ning Cheng. This is the location ball of this universe's void. I can recognize this place even with my eyes closed. I'll give it to you to form a good karma. Thank you, Senior. Ning Cheng quickly took the gray ball and thanked him profusely. This was what he wanted the most. The old man sighed. I only saw you with a spiritual will and even wanted to take you in as a disciple. Now, it seems that I was a bit boastful. I'm leaving. I can't do without you in the future. We will meet again. Ning Cheng quickly asked, may I ask if Senior is Tao Lord Hengjun of the Purple Cloud Palace? He had long suspected that this old man was Hengjun. Only Tao Lord Hengjun, who possessed the Good Fortune Jade Disc, could repel the owner of the Good Fortune Indestructible Axe. The old man laughed, Tao is not Tao, human is not human. Pity me, how torturous. After the old man finished speaking, his figure disappeared from Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness. Ning Cheng didn't even notice how the other party disappeared. Looking at the void in the distance, Ning Cheng felt admiration in his heart. This was a true powerhouse, not someone who would snatch good things from others. From the other party's gaze, he obviously knew that his creation divine spear was powerful. However, he only glanced at it. Not only did he not make a move, but he also gave him a gray void location ball and told him that they would meet again in the future. But, Tao is not Tao, human is not human. Pity me, how torturous. What did this sentence mean? Chapter 1377. Ning Cheng took out the gray sphere and swept it with his spiritual consciousness. The sphere was dotted with starlight and contained an endless aura of the void. The various void positional markers were very clear, and even Ning Cheng's current location was displayed. At the top of the positional sphere were two tiny words, World Mountains and Rivers. Ning Cheng secretly marveled in his heart. Just from the name alone, this was not an ordinary positional sphere, but a top-grade void positional weapon. This old man named Zi Shao was truly generous. Even he would not give such a thing to a person he met for the first time. Following the positional markers, Ning Cheng quickly found a reference object, the Milky Way. Or rather, it was the only place Ning Cheng was familiar with. Rumors had it that the Milky Way was a place that prevented the cowherd and the weaver maid from meeting. Of course, Ning Cheng was not a fool to think that the cowherd and the weaver maid were real people. Most of the time, it was just a fake story, not comparable to the origin of Hung Jun. Ning Cheng brought out the starry sky wheel and quickly approached the Milky Way. Although he did not know where the Milky Way was, the name sounded familiar. The positional markers in the world mountains and rivers looked very close, but the real distance was vast and boundless. Ning Cheng followed the instructions of the void positional sphere and slowly approached the Milky Way after tearing through many interfaces. On the positional sphere of the world mountains and rivers, the Milky Way was just a slender silver ribbon. When Ning Cheng stood next to the Milky Way, he was shocked by the vast aura. A boundless silver river rolled in front of him, with waves coming from afar and then moving away again. The giant waves were tens of thousands of feet tall, and they came crashing down one after another, creating a magnificent sight. The silver spray at the top of the waves looked like little silver beans of different sizes, constantly dancing on the surface of the silver river. Delicate clouds play tricks, flying stars spread hatred, the silver river passes through the darkness. As Ning Cheng thought of this poem, he immediately threw this poem to one side, and in his mind came another poem that was even more magnificent. The rolling Yangtze River flows east, the waves wash away all the heroes. Success or failure turns into nothing. The green mountains are still there, the sunset is red. Ning Cheng did not know which direction the Milky Way was flowing to, nor did he know where it flowed to. However, it gave Ning Cheng a feeling of grandeur and the passage of time. The void at the edge of the Milky Way formed a bank of the laws of the world, automatically restraining the silver waves of the Milky Way in the raging river, not letting a single strand of it overflow. Whoosh! A huge silver wave came crashing down on the Milky Way's shore. It dissipated in the blink of an eye, just like the passing of countless years. Some of the laws of heaven and earth, filled with powerful Tao charm aura, washed over Ning Cheng's perception. Ning Cheng suddenly had an impulse in his heart. He wanted to rush all the way down the Milky Way. He wanted to see where this Milky Way led to. Cultivation knew no time. Just to derive a divine art, he didn't know how many years had passed. When he saw this majestic and boundless Milky Way, Ning Cheng's urgent need to find a way back instantly weakened. At this moment, his heart was filled with heroic emotions, and he let out a long howl. With a long roar, Ning Cheng brought out the Good Fortune Spirit Spear and immediately used the Spirit Technique, Traceless Collapse. The Tao charm laws around this Milky Way were extremely powerful. Ning Cheng suspected that even his law-breaking finger might not be able to break through the Milky Way's shore. The traceless collapse formed faint void cracks in the void, and these void cracks blasted against the incomparably sturdy Milky Way rule embankment. Following that, a faint mark appeared on the shore embankment that had been blasted. Ning Cheng took a step forward and pointed out with his finger. Breaking law finger birth, heaven and earth extinction. Whoosh! Ning Cheng tore through the Milky Way's shore's restrictions, and the sound of the surging Milky Way waves filled Ning Cheng's ears. Ning Cheng's figure flashed, and his figure flashed through the crack on the shore's shore and into the Milky Way. Kacha, in less than a breath, the moment Ning Cheng entered the Milky Way, the Milky Way's shore that Ning Cheng had torn apart completely closed without a trace. A violent aura blasted towards Ning Cheng. At this moment, Ning Cheng felt extremely small. He felt as weak as a petrel on the boundless sea. The rolling Milky Way's waves seemed as if they would sweep him into the Milky Way at any moment. Tearing, surging, violent, roaring, everything became real, wrapping Ning Cheng above the Milky Way. Ning Cheng had a feeling that as long as he got swept into the Milky Way's waves, even if his strength doubled, he would never have the chance to stand up again. Compared to Jiao Yanghai's axe line's killing intent, this violent tearing of the Milky Way was the most dangerous place. Ning Cheng roared once again, and the good fortune divine spear landed at his feet. Waves after waves of silver waves came crashing down, and the good fortune divine spear under Ning Cheng's feet moved like a boat across the waves and quickly moved forward. No matter how turbulent and violent the Milky Way's waves became, Ning Cheng always stood at the top of the waves. Stepping on the Milky Way, looking at the magnificent starry sky. Looking at the sunset snow, the endless years pass in an instant. Traceless spear, time wheel, 7 bridges, broken and replaced. I don't know where to find eternal life. Having experienced countless years in the void, Ning Cheng's song was filled with vicissitudes and the aura of time. At this moment, his Tao charm aura condensed once again. The endless laws above the Milky Way also gradually merged with his Tao charm. At this moment, only Ning Cheng stood on the good fortune divine spear above the Milky Way's waves. Silver waves that reached tens of thousands of feet high rolled up Ning Cheng and his good fortune divine spear before quickly falling back down. This is the real, flying stream descending 3,000 feet, the Milky Way descending from the 9th heaven. Ning Cheng muttered to himself. Someone is moving above the Milky Way. At the edge of the Milky Way, a man looked at Ning Cheng walking on the waves above the Milky Way and spoke out in horror. Ning Cheng was immersed in the vast laws of the Milky Way and didn't notice the people outside the Milky Way. Ding! A soul-penetrating bell sound awakened Ning Cheng, who was immersed in the Milky Way's Tao charm. Ning Cheng suddenly stopped. Was this a bell sound? Why did it feel so familiar? It felt as if it could see through all the worldly affairs of the universe, but it also felt as if it could destroy everything. Ning Cheng quickly understood that this was the sound of the primal chaos bell. Whoosh! The raging silver waves surged over again, and the powerful Tao charm power contained in these waves directly lifted Ning Cheng up. Ning Cheng stood at the top of the waves and finally saw what caused the bell sound. These were 2 pillars with a vast Tao aura. Ning Cheng had seen these 2 pillars before, the sky-reaching pillars. He had heard that the sky-reaching pillars traversed countless interfaces and positional planes in the vast universe, supporting the entire universe and stabilizing it. Back in the eternal night domain, Ning Cheng had seen these 2 sky-reaching pillars. Now, he saw these 2 pillars again, but from different positional planes. The endless Tao charm aura lingered around the sky-reaching pillars, and Ning Cheng caught a very weak restrictive aura. Ning Cheng frowned slightly. He had felt this restrictive aura before. Back then, Xing Shi had imprisoned an E in a low-level positional plane to help her collect the sky-reaching pillars. Ning Cheng still remembered that when the indestructible axe condensed, Xing Shi, that vicious woman, had tried to collect the sky-reaching pillars. But she didn't succeed. Now above the Milky Way, Ning Cheng saw the 2 sky-reaching pillars again and felt the restrictive aura again. He didn't need to guess to know that Xing Shi had imprisoned someone here. This woman's purpose for imprisoning others was simple. She hadn't given up on taking away the sky-reaching pillars. This woman didn't care about the destruction of heaven and earth at all. She only cared about herself. Since Ning Cheng saw it, no matter who Xing Shi imprisoned, he wouldn't let the other party get what she wanted. At the same time, Ning Cheng also understood why the primal chaos bell sound could be heard here. This primal chaos bell sound should have been left behind during the primal chaos bells battle. The bell sound had been locked by the aura of the 2 sky-reaching pillars. In the absence of outsiders, the Tao charm of this bell sound wouldn't be triggered. But now, he suddenly rushed in and triggered the primal chaos bell sound. From the looks of it, that woman, Xing Shi, also knew about the primal chaos bell's bell sound. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness permeated out. Although he couldn't sense the location of the person imprisoned by Xing Shi, he still felt that something was wrong. It seemed to come from the bottom of the Milky Way. Ning Cheng only hesitated for a moment before directly extending his domain. At the same time, the creation divine spear formed a spear-intent domain around him. Then, he rushed under the Milky Way without hesitation. Even if he didn't save anyone, he would destroy what Xing Shi was doing. An extremely powerful wave came crashing down on him, causing Ning Cheng to feel a sense of danger. If the waves in the Earth's sea were formed by water, then the silver waves here were formed by steel. If the waves in the Earth's sea were formed by water, then the silver waves here were formed by steel. Perhaps every silver droplet was countless times harder than steel. Above the Milky Way, Ning Cheng still had some ability to fight back. After entering the Milky Way, Ning Cheng felt how small he was. His domain shrank due to the powerful Tao charm laws. It seemed that in the next moment, he would be crushed along with his domain. The further down he went, the stronger the Milky Way's pressure became. Even with Ning Cheng's mid-stage Tao integration strength, he could smell a hint of death. Ning Cheng was shocked. He really didn't know how Xing Shi had set up the confinement restriction here and sent people here to guard it. This woman was really terrifying. He could only hope that the sacred Tao sect master, Yi Mo, could reach the third step in the chaos realm. Only then could he restrain this woman a little. A trace of blood overflowed from the corner of Ning Cheng's mouth, and his protective Tao charm cracked. This was the first time he had been pressured to such an extent. Fortunately, Ning Cheng finally felt the aura of the confinement restriction Xing Shi had set up. As long as he could find the restriction Xing Shi had set up, he was confident in breaking it. It was a fact that Xing Shi was stronger than him, but her array Tao wasn't necessarily much better than Ning Cheng's. Chapter 1378. Ning Cheng stopped and saw a simple stone nunnery. The shape of the stone nunnery was very similar to the Temple of Fallen Stars that Ning Cheng had seen before. This stone nunnery was in the Milky Way and had not sunk to the bottom of the river. However, the surrounding restrictions blocked everything, preventing the silver river from eroding the stone nunnery. Sure enough, it was Xing Shi. This woman lacked creativity, and all the temples she suppressed were the same. Ning Cheng raised his hand, and the good fortune divine spear fell into his hand. Immediately after, the spear shot out several times, and the restrictions around the stone nunnery loosened. Ning Cheng then stepped into the restrictions. In front of the stone nunnery, there was a blue flagstone road. Ning Cheng walked a few steps along the blue stone road in front of the stone nunnery and came to a modeled door. Without hesitation, Ning Cheng raised his hand and directly destroyed the restrictions in front of the door, revealing the scene inside the stone nunnery. The stone nunnery was very empty, with only a series of restrictions crisscrossing it. On the left and right sides of the stone nunnery sat a woman. The woman on the left was slightly older, while the woman on the right was slightly younger. Both were stunning beauties. Ning Cheng sighed in his heart when he saw the two of them. After a while, the two of them would turn into clay sculptures like an Yi's statue. If there was no reincarnation, then they would never be able to live. Fortunately, An Yi's soul had reincarnated, which saved her life. The surrounding restrictive power shackled the two of them and pulled them to the sky-reaching pillar. Ning Cheng didn't care about Xing Shi's means. Even if Xing Shi came to attack him, he would not hesitate to break the restrictions. Spear traces swept out, followed by Ning Cheng throwing out array flags one after another. In just a moment, the aura of the two women stopped dissipating and gradually stabilized. However, both of them were extremely weak and didn't even have the ability to open their eyes. Ning Cheng felt a little helpless and could only take out his last drop of true essence of the universe, split it into two, and send them into their mouths. After doing this, he took out a few more Tao pills and sent them into their mouths. He had saved them. If it had been someone else, even if they wanted to save these two, they might not have been able to do so. Unfortunately, he had used up all of his quintessential essence of the universe. It would probably be very difficult for him to obtain this thing in the future. The woman on the left quickly recovered her vitality. She looked up at Ning Cheng in a daze. Ning Cheng could see that her gray eyes were gradually regaining some color, causing him to feel some satisfaction in his heart. No matter what, being able to save someone's life was always good. What's more, Ning Cheng not only saved two people but also broke one of Xing Shi's defensive points. Did you save us? The consciousness of the woman on the left finally became clear, as she looked at Ning Cheng and asked in doubt. Ning Cheng replied, there doesn't seem to be a fourth person here. Although this woman's cultivation hadn't fully recovered, Ning Cheng could feel her cultivation realm from her body. It should be at the early stage of Dao integration. The woman on the right had a slightly weaker cultivation level, but she was also at the primordial chaos realm. The woman on the right also opened her eyes. Her cultivation base and life force were also rapidly recovering. How can you come here? Why didn't that woman stop you? The woman on the left had already completely sobered up, as she looked at Ning Cheng in amazement. She had witnessed Xing Shi's strength. With her strength after Dao integration, it was extremely rare for her to meet a match in the void. However, Xing Shi had easily restrained her. Are you talking about Xing Shi? That woman is trying to improve her cultivation level. I'm afraid she doesn't have time to come here. You don't have to worry. After leaving the Milky Way, you can go wherever you want, Ning Cheng explained. Her name is Xing Shi. The woman on the left repeated. She immediately thought that what she should do now was to thank Ning Cheng for saving her life. Lingbo thanks Dao friend for saving my master and disciple. The woman on the left didn't continue to ask. Instead, she bowed to Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng had never seen Lingbo before and didn't know where she came from. He didn't expect that the primordial chaos divine emperor was Lingbo's disciple. Luo Xian greets Dao friend. Thank you for saving my life. The woman on the right also walked over and bowed to thank him. Her voice was soft and didn't contain any impatience. It was as if she had been imprisoned here for countless years, which was just a trivial matter. Ning Cheng secretly praised this woman in his heart. This woman was born to be a competitor for the Dao. Even her master, Lingbo's master, was not as good as this woman called Luo Xian. My name is Ning Cheng. I happened to save you at the right time. We can't stay here for long. I've already destroyed the restrictions in this place. If we continue to stay here, the Milky Way outside will soon squeeze this place into nothingness. Ning Cheng said. Even if he and Xing Shi had a deep hatred, he still admired Xing Shi's ability. Don't look at how he easily destroyed the restriction array left by Xing Shi. If he had to set up a restriction array here alone, he wouldn't be able to do it. Of course, it wasn't that his Dao of arrays wasn't as good as Xing Shi's, but that his strength was far from Xing Shi's. Lingbo looked at the Milky Way water outside the restriction and said with worry, I'm afraid it will be difficult to go up. Although this isn't the bottom of the Milky Way, we can't go up with our strength. She could vaguely see that Ning Cheng's strength was far inferior to Xing Shi's. Since Ning Cheng wasn't as good as Xing Shi, he might not be able to take them out of the Milky Way. Ning Cheng smiled, you don't have to worry. Since I can come down, I can take you up. Going up and coming down were different. The pressure would get weaker and weaker while the pressure would get stronger and stronger. For Ning Cheng, as long as he could block the Milky Way's pressure, he could rush out of the Milky Way. Thank you, Dao friend Ning. Lingbo also knew that apart from Ning Cheng, they had no other way out. Even if she knew that Ning Cheng couldn't take them out, she still had to follow Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng saw Lingbo's worries. With a sweep of the good fortune divine spear, he brought out a space-protecting domain and rushed up with Lingbo and Luo Xian. Just as Ning Cheng expected, the moment the three of them rushed out of Xing Shi's restrictions, Ning Cheng's protective domain started to crack open. However, it only lasted for a moment. After a while, Ning Cheng took the two of them out of the pressure range. Ning Qing easily repaired the protective domain cracked by the Milky Way's pressure. In just a few breaths, the three of them set foot on the Milky Way again. Seeing the waves crashing over, but unable to pull Ning Qing, who was protecting the two of them, into the Milky Way again, Lingbo felt shocked. Ning Cheng's strength had far exceeded her expectations. In her opinion, Ning Cheng's strength had probably reached the third step. "I'll send you out of the Milky Way." When Ning Qing saw the rings in their hands, he knew that Xing Shi looked down on them and didn't take their rings. Therefore, he did not propose to give anything to the two of them. "Many thanks, Dao friend Ning." Lingbo bowed again and thanked him. If Ning Qing hadn't helped, she wouldn't have been able to leave by herself. After comprehending for such a long time above the Milky Way, Ning Qing directly shot out his spear this time. Void cracks appeared on the Milky Way's law embankment. Then, Ning Qing raised his spear, and a gap appeared in front of the three of them. Before Lingbo and Luo Xian could react, a force swept over and sent them out of the Milky Way. This time, Ning Qing didn't even use his law-breaking finger to directly split open the Milky Way's law embankment. With Lingbo's Dao integration realm and Luo Xian's primordial chaos strength, they were more than enough to protect themselves in the void. So strong. Lingbo landed in the void and looked at Ning Qing, who was still in the Milky Way, in shock. "Good luck." By the time Ning Cheng's words reached Luo Xian and Lingbo's ears, his figure had already disappeared without a trace along with the undulating silver waves. "Master, why don't you ask him if he wants to come with us? I heard that it's difficult to leave this side of the Milky Way's space after entering." Luo Xian asked as she watched Ning Qing disappear. Lingbo said, "Looking at how he easily tore open the Milky Way's law embankment, it shows that he's extremely powerful. It should be easy for him to leave the Milky Way." "No, I mean, he can't find an interface with people. We have the opening heaven talisman, so we can take him with us," Luo Xian explained. Lingbo sighed and looked at Ruoxi before asking, "Luo Xian, do you think it would take him a lot of effort to kill us both?" Luo Xian shook her head subconsciously, "I don't think so. He's very strong." Lingbo also spoke up in agreement, "Yes, this person called Ning Qing, his strength has reached an inconceivable level. If we took out a supreme treasure like the opening heaven talisman in front of him, do you think an expert like him wouldn't try to snatch it?" Luo Xian immediately said, "No, we're imprisoned here, and our vitality is scattered. Even a top-grade spiritual object can't restore us in a short time. Moreover, the thing he gave us is definitely a top-grade treasure. Otherwise, my strength wouldn't have recovered by more than half, and my vitality wouldn't have recovered so quickly." Lingbo sighed again, "We can't let go of our guard. He saved us, and when we grow stronger in the future, we can repay him in other ways. The opening heaven talisman is too important and precious. If I hadn't hidden in the deepest part of my sea of consciousness, I'm afraid that woman would have already snatched it away. Now that we take out the opening heaven talisman, we might end up harming ourselves and others." This time, Luo Xian remained silent. Although she didn't agree with her master's words, she knew what her master meant. "Let's leave this place first." After Lingbo finished, she raised her hand and waved out a golden talisman. At the same time, her spiritual sense swept out. The golden talisman glowed with a dazzling golden light, and soon tore open a rift in the void. Then, she took Luo Xian and disappeared without a trace through the rift in the void. Ning Qing suddenly paused, his face filled with surprise. His spiritual consciousness swept towards the place where Lingbo and Ruoxi left. This was the aura of the opening heaven talisman. Ning Qing was too familiar with it. Song Wei had an opening heaven talisman. He had observed it up close, so how could he forget it? Then he shook his head and muttered to himself, "I didn't expect these two people to have the opening heaven talisman. If that woman, Xing Shi, knew that these two people had the opening heaven talisman, I guess her intestines would turn green with regret." Chapter 1379. In the middle of the god's tomb mound, countless planes away from where Ning Qing was, a burst of laughter rang out. If Ning Qing was here, he would have felt that this voice was familiar. It was the same voice that had guided him to leave the slaughter world of the gods' tomb mound. Ha 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 ha. In the center of the slaughter world of the gods' tomb mound, the laughter continued, and then a gray figure slowly solidified in the center of the slaughter world. This person wore gray clothes and gray hair, and even his face had a trace of gray aura, giving off a sense of decline. But his eyes were extremely demonic and bright, as if he could see through all the mysteries of this world. I didn't expect that I, Wen Bai Gong, would have such a day, ha ha ha. The gray-robed man couldn't contain his feelings of hiding for countless years and released them without any scruples. He indeed had a reason to be excited. How many powerhouses had been trapped in the slaughter world? How many powerhouses had been lost in the slaughter world? As for a person like him, because of his careful concealment, he was saved by a small ant in the end. In his opinion, Ning Cheng was just a puny ant. Even if Ning Cheng reached Dao integration in the slaughter world, he was still an ant in his eyes. After laughing for a long time, he raised his hand and waved it, and a magic weapon overflowing with Dao charm surrounded him. Each of these magic weapons was top-notch, and they were the accumulation of his countless years of hiding in the slaughter world. A silly kid, he actually just asked this lord for a radiant core, ha ha ha. Thinking of Ning Cheng's incomparably happy appearance when he obtained the radiant core, Wen Bai Gong couldn't help but feel a burst of contempt in his heart and couldn't help but laugh wildly. Compared to the light core, he had too many better things. Wen Bai Gong raised his hand and swept up the magic weapons overflowing with Dao charm. He had already decided that before leaving the slaughter world, he must make a fortune. Moreover, that kid who reached Dao integration in the slaughter world most likely had a good fortune treasure. He would look for him after leaving this place. Presumably, what he said to that kid must have scared him. Although what he said was true, as long as he could scare that kid, he, Wen Bai Gong, would have a chance to seize the good fortune treasure. It was indeed dangerous to obtain the good fortune treasure, but who was Wen Bai Gong? He was someone who had experienced the good fortune war and then escaped from the slaughter world. Perhaps, when the second gate of fortune opened, he, Wen Bai Gong, would be its master. Just as Wen Bai Gong was still indulging in his fantasies, the entire slaughter world suddenly erupted with waves of heaven-shaking tremors. This was like an aura that shook the entire slaughter world. Wen Bai Gong had cultivated for countless years and had a certain understanding of the changes of the heaven and earth Tao. After being in the slaughter world for so many years, what law aura had he not seen before? He immediately sensed the shocking aura of the collision with the slaughter world. This was the prelude to a peerless expert about to enter the third step. Wen Bai Gong's heart immediately turned cold, and his previous lofty aspirations suddenly dissipated. Due to the collision of this shocking aura, the laws of the slaughter world became chaotic once again. Some of the souls and nascent divinities that were hiding in the dark came out and searched for new places to hide. Which one of these souls didn't have the power to collapse a part of the void with a stomp of their feet? At this moment, he could only hide. Wen Bai Gong didn't dare to expose himself in front of so many powerful souls, so he quickly hid in a corner. The violent collision of the heaven and earth aura did not weaken because of this. Instead, it became stronger and stronger. Then, Wen Bai Gong sensed an ancient and vast aura. Wen Bai Gong, who was experienced and knowledgeable, immediately sensed it and was even more shocked. This was definitely a world-splitting chaos aura. This kind of chaos aura could only be found in one place, the chaos realm. Was someone at the third step of Tao validation in the chaos realm attaining the creation realm? Wen Bai Gong unconsciously shuddered. If it was really as he had guessed, then when the second creation war arrived, Wen Bai Gong still wouldn't be the main character. Even if he wasn't an ant, he would just be an ordinary person. He knew very well what it meant to be able to reach the third step of Tao validation in the chaos realm. Since ancient times, which supremacy expert hadn't reached the third step of Tao validation in the chaos realm? In the vast universe, when heaven and earth were first separated, the third step of Tao validation was the strongest and easiest. This was because the chaos aura was the purest and easiest to comprehend. However, at that time, all living beings were in a state of enlightenment. even the stronger ones wouldn't immediately reach the third step. As time passed, the heaven-earth law was perfected, and experts gradually appeared. However, the chaos aura in the vast universe had also become turbid because of the passage of time. At that time, the experts who wanted to reach the supreme Tao validation would go to the independent realm that was condensed when the vast universe was first separated, the chaos realm. The chaos realm was the initial form of the chaotic universe. However, the heaven-earth aura inside was chaotic, and the Tao rune law was completely irregular. There were very few people who could reach the third step of Tao validation. More importantly, he had sacrificed his own life for it. However, everyone who reached the Tao validation in the chaos realm was a supreme expert. Fate Tao Lord, Chaos Tao Lord, Karma Tao Lord, Star Tao Lord, which of these top-notch supremacy experts had not reached the third step of Tao validation in the chaos realm? Now, someone was going to reach the third step of Tao validation in the chaos realm. When Bai Gong looked at the chaotic spatial law of the slaughter realm and the killing aura that was everywhere, he sighed to himself. The creation gate is finally going to open again. Will I, Wen Bai Gong, live or die? Wen Bai Gong, who had just condensed his physical body and could not help but take out his countless Dharma treasures proudly, had his fighting spirit reduced by half. It was not that his willpower was weak. It was because he knew how terrifying and powerful the experts who reached the third step of Tao validation in the chaos realm were. No matter how ferocious his willpower was, it would be like a mantis trying to stop a chariot in front of them. In a space filled with the vast heaven-earth chaos aura, a woman in a yellow dress was standing in the void. Waves of earth-splitting aura condensed and revolved around her body. These Tao runes formed the sound of Tao runes in the world and roared ceaselessly. The aura of the Tao runes around her also kept rising along with the sound of the Tao runes. Divine abilities flickered in and out of existence, emitting a celestial phoenix cry. There was a green lotus with 11 petals under her feet. The Tao rune aura of the green lotus was constantly improving and sublimating in the vast and majestic chaos aura. At that moment, the woman in the yellow dress suddenly trembled slightly. The vast Tao runes condensed around the green lotus also loosened at that moment. The woman in the yellow dress woke up from her epiphany. She looked up at the void outside the chaos realm and muttered to herself sternly, "No matter who you are, you will definitely die for breaking the guardian spirit that I used to collect the sky-reaching pillar." After saying that, she closed her eyes again. She had wanted to enter the chaos realm many times in the past, but she had never been able to figure out a way to enter. Now that she had finally entered, she definitely would not waste her time and opportunity on anger. However, before she could sink into that epiphany again, the chaotic heaven-earth law around her became even more chaotic. An intense heaven-earth fluctuation surged in the surroundings. The chaos aura seemed to form a giant word that could open the sky. Then, it condensed in one direction like a line. The vast heaven-earth Tao rune aura transformed into rolling thunder. The rolling thunder blasted away the Tao runes of the phoenix cry that she had condensed. Then, it turned into a torrent that flowed towards Lei Ming's location. The woman's eyes widened and she gritted her teeth. "You dare to vindicate Tao third step in the chaos realm? Die!" This woman was Xing Shi, who suddenly left heaven beyond heaven. It had been nearly 10,000 years since she found the chaos realm and went in to learn the chaos realm Tao wave. To her, if she had some more time, she would definitely be able to successfully merge the realms. In the chaos realm, realm merging would allow her power to soar limitlessly. When she created the realms, she didn't find the chaos realm. Now that the realm merging was here, it wasn't too late. Billions of km away from Xing Shi, a blue-robed youth stood at the top of a huge peak. In fact, his feet didn't touch the ground. He was still a few meters from the ground. This blue-robed youth also suddenly left from the Heaven Beyond Heaven tournament and found Yi Mo in the Chaos Realm. The Chaos Realm was boundless. Spirit sense couldn't reach further. Even though Yi Mo and Xing Shi both knew he came to the Chaos Realm, they couldn't find where he was. After entering the Chaos Realm, Yi Mo realized what the flaw of his god art was. All of his sacred arts had undergone nirvana, but compared to the nomological Tao runes that were equivalent to the creation of heaven and earth, his sacred arts were still lacking a type of spiritual marrow. This was something created by the world. It was a spirit and dedication bestowed to God art. Before, he only used his God art as a reflection of his cultivation level. The stronger he was, the stronger his God art was. In reality, everything in the world had spirituality. Even if it was a divine ability, it would also have spirituality. No wonder he was only one level lower than this woman but had such a huge difference in power. The root cause was this. Yi Mo took a deep breath and focused all his attention on fusing his spirit will with the surrounding chaos heaven's Tao runes. He was constantly deducing and fusing his own sacred art. The chaotic law qi around him would make an ordinary Tao integration divine emperor go crazy. But in front of Yi Mo's three-birth chant, it wasn't affected at all. At this moment, he didn't think about quickly creating realms or improving his power. He just endlessly perfected his God art. 1 year was too short. 10,000 years wasn't long either. In cultivation, the most worthless thing was time. In the blink of an eye, 10,000 years had passed. Heaven flame 9 suns, 5 spear lightning kill, instant breath, ice space, 1 side, samsara, falling mark sword rune, rumble. The fusion power of heaven and earth formed around Yi Mo. Yi Mo suddenly opened his eyes. There was no sadness or joy in his eyes. He knew clearly that it was time for him to create a realm. With a wave of his hand, the entire chaos realm rumbled. The vast world qi fluctuated and laws turned into Tao words.